Hello everybody and welcome back to the Champion of Champions, and it's the second session and it's Mark Selby 5, Watchalong 4, and what an evening realistically of sport there. We're starting off very much with a bang, and Kevin Monelli, thank you very much for the super chat, lovely little message out there as well. And yeah, of course, as I say, the pinned message does say that the World Cup qualifiers have been completed for my beautiful nation and they'll be trying to compete for the playoffs for the World Cup. But now, if you go back to snooker, we are going to be anticipating now a brilliant clash of two titans. Mark Selby, the four-time world champion, against the world number one, the ace in the pack, Judd. And who's he going to be? Well, let's find out. He's going to be first to 10, that's for sure. So we guaranteed ourselves to have witnessed 5 more very exciting frames of snooker to be played in between those two great players. And now let's see which one of them is going to be able to come out on top in this thrilling battle. Players are ready to make their way onto the main table arena, and let's get this party started now. I'm still not going to change the prediction for me going actually in favour of Watchalong, for the simple reason I don't really like to do that. But now the crowd certainly giving it up for Mark Selby, and a warm round of applause. I think the crowd are going to have to play a major part now for the jester from Leicester, of course, playing in Leicester right now. It is going to be the fan favourite, Mark Selby, the world number 9, that is looking to land one of his biggest wins of, well, certainly the last couple of seasons, and be the champion of champions. He already managed to win a couple of tournaments last season, but this one certainly will be taking the crown there for him. And now, let's give it up for the ace in the pack for the crowd as well, giving acknowledgement there to the world number 1 that managed to end that streak of Mark Selby winning all the frames on the bounce, and ultimately managed to get himself very much in that equation and narrowing the gap down to just 1 frame of a deficit. And it is Mark Selby 5, Watchalong 4 now as we approach the second session, which is about to begin. Let's see with the way the players are going to try and approach this one. Is it going to be more of the same for Watchalong trying to run away with it early at the start, or is it going to be Mark Selby to try and settle quite quickly and get this match to go his way? Is he going to be the ace or is he going to be the jester? We are ready to get this party underway. Now, the players are going to shake hands here, and it is going to be Mark Selby to get us underway in frame number 10. Let's get this party started and let's get ready to play some snooker. Here we go, certainly, here we go. Now Selby with a break off once again. Left side for him and right side for Watchalong, as it would usually be. So let's see the way the cue ball is going to bounce off the two parts of the table and get himself lined up nicely onto the ball cushion. So Watchalong was able to exploit the right hand side of the table on a couple of occasions previously, but I don't think that's going to be the case right here, right now. You can try and send the cue ball to the lower part of the table, but don't really think he's going to be taking this red on. Although it is quite earlier in the match, so might be able to might be tempted to do that. And he was tempted, and he has missed the red, so let's see where the same red is going to finish. So very much a similar start to the one that we've seen from Mark Selby in the opening frame of the first session. Now, Selby will step to the table, but has he got anything available into the left corner? The cue ball has finished on top of the red, which could have been playable into the left middle instead. Now, let's see what Selby will have to his name to try and, put all the pressure on Watchalong. At least get himself into a nice little safety battle to try and get it started. And for now, he'll just guide the cue ball to the top part of the table and doesn't want to risk it up to this point. So let's see if he's going to have the shot into the right corner there for Watchalong. I mean, technically it is possible there for him, for the simple reason of, him having the cue ball to be sent into the main pack of reds. Probably is going to be a suggestion for him to refuse that shot to be taken. And live pot success, as you can see, 93% for Watchalong, 93% for Selby. And don't really think it represents the picture. And safety success being 75% each. I would probably swap those two numbers, because I think safety has been really, certainly the jewel of Mark Selby. But Watchalong hasn't struggled in that aspect either. But with the way some of these frames have gone, I wouldn't actually say that. It has been a 93% of a pot success out there. But let's see if that is going to be the case. Now, once again, it goes back to Chomp. And he's going to send the cue ball to the lower part of the table. So try and get the white into a safe zone. Doesn't really want to have it cannon into the green. And ultimately that still is going to be the case. Now Selby's having a look to see if he's going to be able to go for the red into the left corner. Or not on this occasion. So, you know, Chomp has had one of those chances. Not taken and missed previously in the frame. Of course, Selby does tend to go for the chances that pretty much a guarantee there to his name. Let's see if one of them is going to go his way into the left corner. Of course, he's landed a couple of monster long pots previously in the final. And he does seem to be taking this red on there. It is quite early in the second session final. Let's see if he's going to be able to get this one in. He won't. He still manages to get the cue ball into a somewhat safe area. Let's see when the cue ball is going to bounce. When the red is going to bounce off the top part of the table and that lower cushion of the black as well. Now he's going to have the red lined up for Watchalong, but ultimately he's still going to be lined up on the same sort of a short selection, which Selby had to his name previously. So not a massive advantage for Watchalong's favour. And now, once again, to the top part of the area he goes. And Selby is going to have one more shot selection to his name. So you're just looking at the couple of reds available to him to try and play into one another from the right hand side. And I think he's going to be able to just knock the red into the left corner. But has to avoid leaving that same red in the jaws of the pocket for Chomp to try and exploit. And I mean, he hasn't really played the shot too well, because even though he got the cue ball into somewhat of a safe area, he's very lucky to have another red in the way of the one that he's left over the left corner pocket for Chomp to try and take. So now let's see if Chomp is going to try and exploit that, sort of having that left corner pocket increased in size there for him, and try and knock the red in. Of course, the black has gone onto the black cushion, which is going to make sure that he's not going to be playable for the time being. And Chomp can have a look to see if he's going to have anything else available for a safety side of things to be played. And it doesn't look like it's going to be the case this time around, so Chomp is just having a look to see. I'm still going with Chomp too. Yeah, as I say, you know, I think it's boring to change your prediction halfway through the match, especially with it being the scoreline that, you know, one win for Chomp in the frame, and he's going to be able to get himself right back in the equation. Ooh, has he landed himself on the pink because he managed to get two reds in. Don't think it's going to be an advantage though for him, unless he is going to be on this pink. Now, 2 points scored. Of course, usually it will be a nice little thing there for him. He has indeed played that red along the cushion to try and knock it off the other one into the left corner. Because, as I say, using that extended pocket to his name, but ultimately he's not going to be on the pink, it would seem, and therefore has to play a shot off the cushion and try and find the green or the yellow. Don't think he's going to go for the brown for it being too direct and just straightforward for the short selection. Chomp is going to try and go for the top part of the area once again. Let's see the way he's going to be able to do it. So send the cue ball to the top part of the table. And I mean, he has gone for the brown. Whether he's called or not is another thing. And well, the fact that he stays out there probably hasn't. So I think he has gone for the green, and 4 foul points have to go to Mark Selby. And of course, it is going to be the break ends for Watchalong, and it's going to be attempt number 2 because Selby will have absolutely no intention of taking the position from its current shape. And the referee will try and respot the cue ball in exactly the same way as it was previously. It doesn't take too much time this time around, so just try and adjust trajectory with a minor effect. And well, once again, I mean, Chomp at this stage, Chomp should try and call the brown here because he caught that one twice on the bounce here, and surely, and you know, playing quite a nice safety shot with the position that he finds himself in. This time around, he will call the brown surely and just try and get the cue ball into a nice little zone there for him. Until then, Selby will kindly ask Chomp to repeat the same shot selection, and attempt number 3 coming up. Let's see if he's going to adjust even more, or he's going to call the brown indeed. I think he has adjusted the position, so trying to get in behind the green, and in the end, playing the shot really, really nicely, to be fair to him. Sacrificing 8 points, but still getting himself nicely positioned for their safety play to unfold. Now, what Selby can see out of this position is going to be very interesting to find out. Ooh, he hasn't played the shot well at all. And is he going to cannon the cue ball into the main pack of reds? He will. And that's going to leave a chance out for Judd. So ultimately, you have to say, shout out to John, by the way, because, you know, he's stuck to his original decision and played a really good safety shot. I'm surprised that Selby didn't actually see the approach that he was trying to take and still allowed him to sort of be put back exactly where he was in the previous position. But now Chomp is looking to try and run away with this one. Try and get the pink into the right corner. Play through the cue ball and get himself lined up for a little bit of a stun shot. And the red into the left corner. Now, 1 point advantage and still having 123 on the table. So Chomp is trying to achieve 5-all parity going into frame number 11. And guarantee that we're going to have 15 frames of action to witness here as fans. Once again, it's a bit too straight on the blue this time around though for Chomp. So has to be careful with this approach. And ideally wants to have the cue ball just that minor bit of angle to try and send it onto the lower part of the table. And Chomp either trying to create the angle manually, but just forcing through the shot on the cue ball. And absolutely hammering that one onto the right cushion. So played nicely. Once again, asks the referee to clean the white, and he's going to have a lot more of a job there for himself because the black, as I say, is out of position. The pink is not going to be playable into the right corner unless you get the perfect sort of positional shot on it, and therefore it ain't going to be an ideal situation there for Chomp to find himself in. But of course, he is still the player at the table and trying to perform all the magic now on the snooker table, and rolls the red in very, very nicely indeed, once again, for it to be on the top part of the blue. This time around, I think you can try and go for the lower reds, and that way he's going to have the pink to be set up in for the left middle, and once again, just asking the referee to clean the blue this time around. So, has to make sure that it's going to be perfection in every single aspect of the game, and meanwhile, just having a look to see if he's going to have reds available for the right corner for him to try and play for. I mean, that's going to be a bit of an easier short selection there for him if he does go for that transition on the black, which is very much possible there for him. And Chomp just trying to knock the blue in with minimal power and minimal force on the cue ball. Gets himself lined up with a bit of the angle though. So clearly not too focused on trying to play for the black right here, right now. And just sending the cue ball with a bit of power to go around the table and get itself positioned on pink or blue to be taken into the right middle or right corner pocket. 14 points now is the advantage. And Chomp once again having a look to see if he's going to be lined up perfectly on the pink. I think he is, because he's going to be able to just roll through the cue ball, get it lined up on another angle on the red to get the cue ball lines back for the pink to be taken once again, and do a little bit of a loop on those 4 shots that he's going to be trying to take on right now. Still eliminating all the easy reds and ultimately freeing up the black spot right now. So 21 points is the advantage there for him. 27 after this pink, and still having 3-4 reds available to his name at least until he's going to get to the more difficult reds, or trying to maybe spread those out from the blue. Unlikely to do that from the black as it stands, with the black being the color out of position. So once again, goes down for the red to be taken into the left corner. Plays that one with a bit of a sweet strike. Gets position on the pink perfectly. So let's see now if he's going to try and go really deep onto the cue ball and have himself positioned for one more shot into the left corner, or indeed just to try and blow through the shot. Don't really, well, I mean, he managed to get the pink in, but only just. Had to be very careful with that, not to catch too much of the backhand jaw. But in the end manages to succeed with it. Now plays the red into the right corner. Chomp up for this business end. Well, as I say, not really going to expect Mark Selby to run away for Judd Chomp. The fact that he's managed to take 4 frames on the bounce against the world number 1 has been spectacular. But I think he was very much compromised by the fact that it was Chomp not playing particularly well, and Selby being a able to take the game onto his level and just trying to slow the play down. Force Chomp to be playing those shots that he wouldn't really be comfortable with. But right now it is going to be the world of Judd Chomp as it stands, as he rolls another red onto the right corner. So managed to get through all the easy reds and now getting onto the difficult part. But ultimately, I mean, he only has 67 points on the table. 42 points is the gap now. And, if he takes one more red with one more colour, I'm not really a fan of the shot that he just played, of trying to get the cue ball onto the reds. Ultimately, he still landed on one. But I don't really think that was a shot for him to play for the simple reason of if he runs himself out of position now, he's not over the line just yet. And therefore, he is going to be now because he needed one more red there to be 48 points clear. So now a colour and a red combination is going to get him over the line with only 51 points being left out at the table. And the gap for Judd Chomp at that point is surely going to be a touch more than that. So still lands himself with a bit of an awkward position on the bank, so has to make sure he's going to be able to navigate his way through this shot. And manages to do that nicely now. He's got a 54 points of a gap now, 59 on the table, so the red to get him over the line, barring snookers for Selby. And he's got one into the left corner to try and take. And I think he's going to have to take it with a rare shot. Just roll the red in, maybe get yourself the position on the black to try and roll it along the cushion. You don't want to push through the red too much. And that's the approach that he's taking, but he's going to have the cue ball a bit too close to the black. That's actually the case on the snooker table. Barely a ball distance in between the cue ball and the black itself. This might be a razor close final. It might be, but as I say, I think when we get to the business end of the final, that's where we're going to realise if that's going to be the case or not. And Chomp is still going to miss the black, so Selby shortly will come back to the table to try and get a couple of snookers away from Chomp here. So 55 points is the advantage for Judd and 51 on the table. So one snooker needed as it stands for Mark Selby to be able to tie and force a respot. So he plays the red into the right corner on this occasion and gets himself lined up for the black to be taken into the right corner. Nobody has won yet, not quite, and it does look like it is going to be a 5-all to be heading into frame number 11, but ultimately Selby will have something to say about that for now, as you would expect with there being one snooker in this frame as it stands. Selby's going to try and knock the two reds in and have the third one to try and get a snooker on Chomp. So roll the red in, get yourself positioned on the black, and actually cannon the red away from the pink is going to be quite a nice shot selection there for him. Could be decided, could be wrong though. Well, as I say, it's quite early to say that. We've guaranteed ourselves 15 frames, but it's still going to be quite a long way until we get to a decider, and therefore 19 frames to be played. Now, if we're going to have the black to disappear into the right corner, I'm very intrigued to see the way that Selby is going to try and play this one. I mean, if he gets the cue ball in behind the pink, that's going to require some of the distance in between that red and the cushion to be placed. So let's see the approach that Selby takes on the red. Surely he's not going to be able to try and pot it. Ooh, I don't think he's played the shot well at all. I mean, he's cannoned the red into the brown and basically taken his spot here, but there's nowhere near enough distance in between the cue ball and the pink, so it's barely a difficult snooker there for him. And Chomp can try and do something about this one. One cushion escape, maybe even two, if he wants to do it off the left side cushion and the ball cushion right now. Ooh, I say barely a difficult shot there for him. Chomp got absolutely nowhere near it. And, well, not really something that you want to see as Judd Chomp fan. But, of course, good news for you is that Mark Selby needs a black after this red. And he also needs a respot, if that is to be the case. Now, Selby's going to be able to go for the red into the yellow pocket if he wants to. And guide the cue ball in towards the black. I think he'll take the respot at this stage, but, that's what I think. Mark Selby doesn't think that. And let's see if he's going to have another snooker lined up on Judd Chomp. He won't. And Chomp certainly can get through to this red. And ultimately, I think he's got the angle required on this shot to try and take the black closer to the cushion and make it unplayable for Selby. Oh no, well, I think it's, it's too early to panic. It is a 6 color sort of clearance is going to be on the line there for Selby, but the fact that he needs it with the black and also to force a respot for a 50-50 black ball decider, still think it is all going to come down to that fact of Selby getting this red in with the black. So for now, it's somewhat safe because, Trump is in charge of the position. And as I say, try to push the black onto the cushion, but ultimately I think he's pushed it way too close to the pocket for it not to be playable. But, I mean, it limits the chances there for Selby to try and get himself a positional shot on the black. And therefore, just makes the chances for Trump a bit boosted there right now. So Selby once again trying to find that perfect sweet spot for the cue ball to be sent in behind the green. Instead, he's going to push the green on towards the black, the ball cushion. And give the turn back to Trump. So let's see if Judd is going to be able to play a cross double into the left corner with the red being very much stuck to the right cushion as it stands. Try and play that one with a bit of conviction and power. And have that one cannoned into the left part of the pocket. Seems like a slow match, so imagine watching these back actually live. This is what I think, and not really a fan of watching finals in the replay. When you know the result, it just doesn't seem like the same thing. And of course, when you want to rewatch the final, when you know it's been a classic of featuring two great players playing some fantastic snooker, that's when the rewatching actually comes into play, as quite handy there for you. Selby now has got a shot of this black to be taken into the green pocket if he wants to go for a deep screw on the black once again. So I'll send the cue ball somewhat into the safe zone. And let's see if he's going to be able to have the shot executed well. Don't really think that's going to be the case there for him, so probably just trying to go for the red on the right-hand side of the table. And cannon the cue ball into the safe zone for himself. Good luck to Ukraine too. Yes, the Lawrence, lovely that, and absolutely, as I say, absolutely buzzing to win that off the Iceland on the last, pretty much kick off the game with the second goal. It was really, really breathtaking to watch. Now Selby plays a decent safety shot, trying to get the cue ball and the red to be separated by the yellow. In the end, not quite perfectly executed there, and Champ can get this one to try and send the red onto the top part of the table for the switch of the play to be done once again. It must be a long match. I wonder how long session 1 was. I mean, it was absolutely lengthy. I think it was 4 hours or so. I think it was a bit less than that, to be fair. 3.5 if you count all the breaks and intermission. But the thing about the opening session was that the first 4 frames were played in an absolute lightning round. Like it was it 56 minutes that it took us to get through the first 4 frames, but the last 5 probably got, I don't know, 3 and a bit hours to be taken. Well, a little bit less than that. 2.5 hours to play the last 5 frames, where the opening 4 had been played less than an hour previously. Once again, Chomp plays with a nice little shot and executes that one well. Not that long, Stephen Ollie. Yeah, as I say, it could have been longer. And I think that if we haven't actually taken those 4 opening frames to be less than an hour, I think it could have been one of those sessions that goes into sort of a deep 4, maybe even 5 hours at some point. Once again, Selby finding the perfect route for the cue ball to stay on the yellow pocket and the red to be sent onto the lower part of it. Just plays through the cue ball and sends it in behind the pink. So, lovely little shot there by Judd once again. As I say, I don't really agree with that safety success being at 75% for each of the players. And I also don't really understand where 93% of the pot success actually came from. Thought it was sort of a comfortable 80 zone for the pot success, and probably a comfortable 80% zone for the safety to be played as well. And Selby cannons the red into the safe zone there. I mean, get a bit lucky with that one. And Chom has to try and do it all over again. Trying to get the cue ball on the lower part of the table, and for contrast, try and send the red for the top part of it. Of course, him getting that snooker previously for Selby was very important now, because Chom can no longer go for those sort of reckless attempts and just try and push the red over the corner pocket. But I mean, he hasn't really done that, but he's left the red on for Selby. But of course, Selby can't really take this one on unless he's going to be able to pot the red with the black, which doesn't seem to be the case from the position that he finds himself in right now. And Stephen and Gold to work final, watch 35 frames. Well, this is what I mean. Sometimes it can be a bit more frame duration than that. Ultimately, let's see what Selby's going to try and do on this red. I mean, it's almost like he's played it into the yellow pocket, but clearly he wasn't trying to do that because there was no expensive colour that he was playing for. So clearly would have put himself under massive struggle, had that been the case. And instead, he's potentially left this red for Trump to try and take into the left middle. I mean, Trump is going to study the fact of if he leaves this red, he has to make sure he leaves it in a way that Selby's, for his life, he won't be able to get on the black after this red. So very important shot there for Judd to try and take. And manages to go against that idea previously and just do a little cross double on the red. Try and send it towards the right side cushion. And give the turn back to Selby this time around. That's a lot of frames. Well, the thing is, it is going to be spread out, what is it, 3 days or 2 days that you've got the World Final to be played, because it's 4 sessions at least. And, you know, if you have, yeah, it is 4 sessions, because if you're going to have 8 frames in a session, that adds up pretty much to 35, where you can have an odd one to be added onto some of those sessions out there. Lovely little shot by Selby once again. Don't think he's going to be troubling Chom though. I have said that before, and Chom didn't manage to get the red that time around. And yeah, lovely little shot that by Judd. Beautifully executed, probably shot of the match. Lovely little snooker escape there from the world number 1. And now has got Selby into all sorts of trouble. And yeah, that's certainly is the one for the highlights reel. Lovely little shot there, beautifully played. And you know, to stun the cue ball perfectly in behind the green. Have all the length of the table in between the white and the red. This is certainly going to be one of the shots of the tournament. Lovely little shot there from Jump. You can see 2 cushion escape, getting the cue ball perfectly in behind the red to try and cannon it onto the lower part of the table. And, you know, stunned perfectly in behind the green. Let's see if Selby's going to be able to get onto the red from the first time of asking. Don't think he will. He's going to miss it, and he's going to underrun it for it anyway. So 4 points go back to Judd Chom, so he's no longer unsafe to Selby actually forcing a respot. And he manages to recover himself very, very nicely indeed. And of course, to do that when facing a snooker yourself has to be a brilliant achievement there for Judd. Let's see what he's going to be able to do right now. Push the red onto the lower part of the table. Once again, have the pink as the main colour in between the target ball and the red. And back to Selby goes. Good value for money with snooker. Well, it is, and of course the arena ain't gonna be as packed as sort of when you have the Super Bowl, even tennis to an extent, especially football, and ultimately get much better experience in the arena because it's so close to you, especially when you're not really at the level that you only see the sort of table horizontally. Ooh, Selby nearly flukes the red into the right middle, which of course would have been very much against his plans, but I think he's managed to lay a snooker on Chomp now. So let's see the way that Judd is going to be able to respond out of this and get himself out of trouble. He still should be one of those that one cushion escape should be relatively straightforward, but him having to play over green just makes the shot a bit tricky there for him. And just about manages to cannon the white into the red and give the turn back to Selby. 2 days, 4 sessions, great live. Yeah, that's the thing. I sometimes play online snooker, sometimes I lose frames. Now that wakes me up to focus on concentration, makes me play better. Well, as I say, I don't really talk about concentration ever since seeing that interview from Sean Murphy on ITV. I think it was a couple of years ago, where he said, you don't ever blame players for taking their eye off the ball and saying that it was a lack of concentration shot. And then when he had well, not going to say had a go at the ITV presenter, but when he was clearly unhappy with that being the noise in the media. Jump once again, just cannoning the red away from the cue ball, and actually got that one into an interesting zone there because it's gone right over the left middle in a way that it's not even possible to try and do a Sean Murphy shot and try and pot the red from the from the ball cushion. But also, like, if you're going to try and play this one thin on the edge, you're going to very likely have the cue ball to go in off there into the left middle. Selby manages to put some distance in between the white and the red. And ultimately, it is going to be Trump to try and do similar sort of thing there with getting the red back onto the lower part of the table. And have the cue ball accelerated and pretty much stay in the same zone where the red would have been previously. Trump goes for another short selection and tries to cannon that red in towards the green pocket. Let's see what we're going to have with Selby right now. Is he going to go for a similar approach? Or is he going to try and just stun the cue ball in behind the green? Of course, it is possible if he plays the shot well enough. And took all the pace out of the cue ball, and decent effort. But once again, if there is a way for the cue ball to go around the green, don't really think that's going to trouble Judd for longer than 5 seconds. Made at least 4 147 breaks on that. I could never do it on real tape. Yeah, that's the thing. You know, when you see it on this, ooh, that's a mistake from Chomp. I thought you could go around the green, and he clearly thought so as well, but he clips the green on the way in. And was trying to play around the colour out there, but in the end, it is once again there. Back to square one for Selby, having that ability to try and tie back in this frame to force a respot. We've had Chomp heading into this battle with a snooker in hand. Selby managed to climb a snooker back on Chomp, and then Chomp laid a brilliant snooker of his own. And now Selby responds once again. Let's see what Mark is going to be able to do this time around. I mean, ideally, on those sort of shots that you want to try and get the cue ball in behind the green for Chomp to be basically forced to having to use the entirety of the snooker table to try and get the red, to try and get the cue ball into the red. And don't think Selby played the shot well enough. I don't think he's done that, and he's going to have the red available to Chomp to try and knock it in, and have all of those hopes for Selby to try and get this frame back on his score sheet, eliminated right here, right now. You've seen that one. 147 breaks are hard. You've got to take blacks with every bit until the end, then take scholars in order. Yes, absolutely. As Trump is going to miss the red, though. He still was playing the cue ball to be sent to the lower part of the table. So not going to have anything easy given away to Mark. And, well, the thing about 147s is going to have to be the fact that you have to play them in the way that whatever you do, whatever your shot on the red is, you have to make sure you're going to be able to go for the black. If you're going to have to go for the black 15 times, you need to make sure that the black is going to be on its spot. Therefore, you need to have those 15 reds to basically be in around the black spot, and any sort of mistake or any misjudgment in the trajectory, in the line that you've taken, in the approach, in the pace of the cue ball, or just taking the eye off the pot slightly, you know, and that's going to be 147 challenge over. So I'll be going for a little bit of a swerve around the blue, I thought, and managing to get the red, but ultimately leaving that. There's a long shot available for Chomp to try and take into the right corner. Let's see if Chomp is going to go for this one, or he's going to try and get the red in a safe spot there once again. There's a nice little line there on the cue ball, and played it really, really nicely, to be fair. You can see the outcome being just about as perfect as it could have been from that shot from Chomp. And once again has got a snooker lined up on Mark Selby. Come on, Chomp pot. Well, it clearly feels like, you know, he's no longer safe, so he has to go for the approach that he's not going to leave anything easy for Selby right now. And tries to snooker Selby this time around, but I think he'll go for this one. He's now, once again, it's not a guarantee there, but it's a lot closer with the red into the green pocket, although the cue ball has gone as close as it's ever going to get to the right corner pocket itself. Let's see what the approach from Chomp is going to be here. Some of the spots I took were nowhere near the black spot, and to travel back down for the black. That's the thing about it, and that's why you have to be, not only do you have to be perfect on the black, but every single time you have to be perfect for the shot that you're trying to perform on the previous red, because that way you're going to give yourself some sort of control over the next positional shot on the black to be played. Chomp once again going for the red, missing that one. But still, even though he's left the red for Selby, he can't really take this one on there, Mark, because he can't afford to take this red with anything apart from the black, which is why I think Selby will absolutely snap your hand for a respot at this stage. And, you know, if he's got a chance of trying to get the red with the black with no real guarantee on the yellow, he'll absolutely take it in the heartbeat. So let's see what he's going to try and do right now. Maybe get the cue ball in behind that little cluster of blue and yellow. And, ooh, the red is going to travel back up the table. And, well, it's certainly going to be visible for Chomp. It's not going to be playable at this stage, you would think. And Chomp, once again, is going to be in charge of the position. And try and be in control of sending that red onto the lower part of the table. Now, let's see what he's got in his imagination. And just roll the cue ball onto the lower part of the area. And, well, he's going to have the blue in between the cue ball and the red. So, you know, the good old cushion first shot from the ball cushion into the red is going to be very much available to Selby right now. These players do plenty of max in practice, but in match they play to win. Yes, it's a very good point, and because, you know, because the level of snooker has increased, you're always going to be forced into competitive matches like that, and therefore, very rarely, unless it's going to be like sort of first round, second round, and you're going to have the world number 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 10, playing up the world number 64 or something, they're really unlikely to sacrifice the chance for guaranteeing themselves to be over the line in the frame to commit to the maximum, which it probably is what it takes. And, you know, as Ronnie would say, you want a bit more of numpties to be playing against when you have a chance for 147. Which is why it is actually so valuable when you do it like Sean Murphy did in the semi-final of the Masters. Or like Selby did a couple of seasons ago. I think he's done that against Bruxelles in the World Championship final in the Crucible. I mean, that's the dream come true. If you're going to make that in the World Championship final at the Crucible, I mean, tell me your career is not actually complete. Well, ideally, of course, you want to win that in a decider, you know, an absolutely parallel universe. As Chomp once again cannons the red away from the main pack, and this time around gets a little bit lucky with cannoning that red into the black, and ultimately going to push the most expensive colour towards the black ball spot, but still very close to the black ball cushion as it stands. Let's see if Selby is going to try and get this red in, because he technically can get the position on the black from this approach. Not on this occasion though. Question, guys, when this match ends, Marco, it is going to be whenever Selby or Chomp reach 10 frames won. So for now, they're approaching 5 frames won. Selby has that number, and Chomp is looking to make that stick right here, right now for himself. If he is to finally knock this red in and end a bit of a nightmare of no pots for, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes now for either one of the players. First to 10 wins. One snooker for Selby needed, it is, and, well, sorry, I say it is, it was. Right now he can try and tie for the respot, because 35 is the gap, 35 on the table, so technically he can get the red with the black and get himself onto the respotted black. Don't really think that's going to be the perfect situation for him, but ultimately, still, he's going to be better than nothing, and Chomp just starting to see, with Selby getting a snooker lined up on him once again. Was there for that? Was the mate? Oh yeah, you talk about the Bruxelles against Selby. Yeah, I mean that was, of course I wasn't there, but you know, it was brilliant to watch on the TV, and you can see the emotion from the crowd. Right, once again, I mean, Trump is playing with Selby to an extent now, because he's just leaving him run with the red into the left middle, not for the first time, but of course still not having that trajectory and the angle on the cue ball to try and send it back for the black. And of course, therefore, Selby ain't going to be taking this one. And just going to send the cue ball in behind the ball colours. Has a decent approach, but wants to catch one of those colours to get stuck in behind it. In the end, not going to be the case. And once again, Chomp can try and knock this red into the left corner if he wants to. But I can tell you right now, he's not even looking at that. And just trying to get cue ball into the safe zone. And it's a nice little line there once again for him. Although, I mean, he probably has allowed Selby to push this red into the black in the way that he's going to get the most expensive colour back on his spot or somewhere around there. And put all that effort from Chomp's point of view back to absolutely nothing. Be funny if tomorrow night they're still playing this match. Well, I mean, that's exactly what I thought. How long can he actually take for us to get on the opening frame? You know, I thought that it was going to be very much Chomp trying to do what he's done in the opening part of the first session, but instead Selby came back with trying to play snooker stuff, which, of course, nothing wrong with doing that, as long as it doesn't take 2 days. And, well, once again, Chomp has to go for a very precise shot on this red, and, I mean, he sees the edge of the red there. I don't really see. Ooh, play the shot really well. If the cue was not going to land in the left middle, he won't. And once again, by the way, Selby in the previous shot cannoned the black into open play, but only for a brief second until he has gone onto the left-hand cushion. So, still no real chance there for Selby to try and get himself on the black. Although, I mean, he's got very much this red in the pocket if he wants to. Let's see if he does want it. Or he's going to have the cue ball to be played onto the lower part of the table once again. I think he has to try and take the red into the yellow pocket for the simple reason of he ain't going to get a better chance than that unless, of course, he wants to take it into the game where he's going to get another snooker on Chomp and therefore not need to get this red with the black. But therefore, I don't really think that works because Selby will know better than me that he's going to need the total clearance anyway, which is going to require the black to be potted. Chomp once again getting the edge of the red on the left-hand side and recovering nicely from that snooker situation. The crowd did an excellent wave after 147. Well, Peter Ebden, best of 19. Well, that's what I'm saying. You know, it's going to take a while for us to finally get over the line because realistically, I can't really see Selby conceding if Chomp manages to get the red in. So we're going to be here for a bit of time now. And of course, it is Selby trying to dominate their safety play once again. And like a game of chess, well, it is. Like 5 now. Well, it is, Marco, but it has been for, I don't know, 25, 30 minutes now. And we're still not technically over the line. And they're all in snooker that. Nothing is impossible. I've seen 4 snookers sort of being overcome by some of the players on the tour. Don't think I've seen 5, though. But for the reason of it not being a snooker right now as it stands. So let's see if Chomp is going to be able to knock the red in. And all of a sudden, he will be pretty much frame over. Yes, lovely little shot that from Chomp. And right here, right now, it is very much looking likely for it to be a 5-all. Especially if Chomp knocks the green in to its own pocket and gets himself lined up for the yellow to be taken. It is going to be 5-all now. So after a little bit of time, and I say a little bit, with a smile on my face, because it wasn't really a little bit, it was a quite lengthy safety battle. But ultimately, it is going to be Judd to get himself a frame on the board. And now a 5-all draw. It's very much a reality now for Judd and Mark Selby. And of course, technically, Selby has lost 2 frames on the bounce now, if you count the one that he's lost at the end of the first session. And not really happened that often against Judd Chomp in this match. I think the only time that's actually happened was when Chomp was able to convert a 1-all draw into a 3-1 lead there for himself. And it is certainly now a good game for the frame to be taken. And Chomp is going to roll the brown and blue as well. So going to run himself out of position on the pink. But of course at this stage it ain't going to matter at all. And a little bit of exhibition style once again. 53 points is the advantage, and Selby won't be coming back to the table at this stage, of course. It is now Judd Chomp 5, Mark Selby 5, as we head into frame number 11. And finally, Chomp manages to get himself on the board here. Let's see if it's going to be sustainable for him in terms of the form that he's produced in the frame number 10 and 9. Now getting some of those breaks quite early into the frame to get himself a sort of a cushion. And nice little guarantee of trying to be a challenger for the frame if it is go the distance. And both of course of these occasions, he managed to come out on top and beating Mark Selby in the end. The 9th frame was a lot easier than that, of course, because Selby didn't actually come out for the snooker battle to be played. And Kevin is an absolute roll there. Thank you very much once again for the gifting a membership there. And well, I mean, 11th frame is going to be important now from the point of view of if you're going to have Selby to win it, it breaks the sequence of Chomp winning those sort of 3 frames on the bounce at that time. Therefore, there's going to be a bit of a problem there. And yeah, Kevin is on the roll now. I know he's mentioned that he had a pizza delivered to his house, and that certainly was one of a generous pizza. So thank you very much once again for the contribution. Now we're about to get onto the 11th frame to get started on ITV4. Yeah, so just waiting for the referee to announce that to the players. Of course, this time around it's going to be Judd to go for the break-off shot, and wants to make sure he ain't going to have any of those long reds available to give away to Mark Selby. And well, let's see what we're going to have right here, right now, available to us. Still wait for the confirmation and the players to go back to the table. And as I say, I think it is coming down to 11th frame being a bit more important to Mark Selby here. But ultimately, if you're going to have Judd to win it, you're not going to say that. It is going to be underestimated. Happy? Yeah, I can tell you are. You know, it's my nation that actually qualified for the World Cup, but you seem to be happier than me, which I actually didn't think was possible at that stage. Right then, colours are set, reds are set, the cue ball is about to be set once again. And we're going to have Judd to take it away there once again, as he loves to do from the right-hand side. And get the cue ball to be lined up in between the brown and the green, as he has a look to see if there's not going to be any marks on it. Right then, let's get this party started once again. And 11th frame, you covering in so good share. Well, thank you, appreciate that. Appreciate that massively. And well, right now we're going to have Judd to try and take the cue ball right beyond the baulk line. And yeah, I mean, let's have a look at what he's saying on this one. I mean, Chomp is not happy with the cue ball at all. And you know what I said? He wasn't happy with a bit of marks there. Literally said to Selby, can we go back to the previous one? At least that one is round. That one seems to be a bit of a square one. And yeah, I think they're going to ask for the cue ball to be replaced. Not often you see that in the final. And yeah, of course, I mean, Kevin was asking about the table maintenance. Yeah, don't really think that, you know, Chomp was happy with that one, as I say, saying that go back to the old one, at least that one is round. Selby clearly not arguing with that one too much. And we're going to have the old cue ball to be respotted back onto this one. Oh, lovely little message there once again. Thank you, Kevin. You become even more of a sort of role model and a brilliant person in my eyes. Now, let's see what red is going to have to be chosen here by Selby to try and take it into the right corner. I think he's going to play this one with power to try and get the cue ball on behind the baulk line. But once again, not play the shot well at all. And needs the brown to come to his rescue. And is that going to be the case? I think he has come to his rescue and covered up the red onto the right middle. And he's a good man. He's a legend, man. Let's see what Chomp has got available to himself. Could have had a red into the right middle to be played, but instead, doesn't look like that's going to be the case. And has to exploit the red available into the left corner instead. Now, I mean, he's looking for a potential safety shot to try and send that red into the main pack. And, well, probably not on this occasion, but on the next one. Certainly going to be a shot for him to try and consider. As, of course, for now, it is a frame and an early start to this one. And it has been 49 minutes since the match has started. So, now certainly a bit of a contrast to the start of the first session where we had 4 frames finished by that stage. Or pretty much finished with Judd just finishing up a century on the 4th time. Let's see if he's going to go for a long shot into the right corner. He will. He'll miss this one though. And let's see where the red is going to finish. And it's going to finish available for Mark Selby to take into the right middle. So, Judd not really getting any sort of luck on this occasion. And now let's see what we're going to have for Selby to try and get out of this break. You know, he gets himself off into a chance. Of course, was quite lucky not to give that red away to Judd. And Judd clearly felt like, you know, he could have taken something else. And last spot time, nearly half an hour for Mark Selby, but don't really think he's going to have this red mist into the middle, and he won't. So gets himself lined up for the green to be taken into its own pocket. And try and get the cue ball for the main part of the table here. Get this one lined up for the red to be taken into the right middle. So now takes the green with the red. So 4 points is the advantage. As now has to try and respond to that. Sort of a 2-frame little bounce back from Chump. And has to get himself a little frame on the board just to make sure that, you know, Chump can keep winning those frames. But ultimately, it is going to be Selby trying to eke out a bit more of those frames and ultimately get himself that frame cushion to try and use in the later part of this match. Now rolls the red and the blue combination this time around. Selby with the chance. Yeah, it's a great chance there for him. And certainly, well, I wouldn't really say it's a lot better than the chance that Judd has had in the previous frame. But, you know, he's going to be able to get the black available to... Well, in fact, I will say that because, of course, Chomp had to make sure he was playing all those shots through the blue until he got onto the pink into sort of midway through that break. And Selby's going to have that black available into both left and right corner. So, you know, it was just probably not the right shot there for Chomp to try and take. Of course, you know, had he made that one stick, you have to say, oh, brilliant shot there. And he gets himself this position. But it's always, you know, fine margins there for you in between criticising the player for missing the shot and praising him for taking the same shot and actually making that one stick. 19 points now is the advantage for Selby. And he'll try to roll the black into the right corner. Get the cue ball to go with a lot of backspin. And have accelerated that one away. So let's see if he's going to have cue ball to be sent onto the right hand side of the table. I think he will. And just try and get in behind one of those reds to try and take them into the right corner. Same pocket as the black. So now 26 points is the advantage for Mark Selby, as he's looking to have that at least one frame cushion re-established back to his name. And sort of nivellate all of those all the previous success that Chomp has managed to achieve, and getting that gap from 5-3 to 5 frames each. Now Selby has to, of course, make sure that he doesn't lose this frame as well, because all of a sudden that will turn into a disadvantage there for Selby and a deficit to try and overcome. But as it stands, it is very unlikely, with him having 27 position or 27 points of a cushion, and also having such a lovely position. Once again, playing through the blue this time around. I think he will go for a backspin though, and try and have himself lined up for a couple of more of those reds taken into the right corner. 32 points is the advantage. And just roll through this red, get himself lined up for the black to try and take it into the left corner instead. And 33 points for Selby. And lovely little shot that. You know, you felt like, and I felt that as well, you know, he's gone into the red a bit too much, but in the end managed to recover with a perfect positional play on the black. So that's going to be the only thing that matters. Still managed to get a couple of those reds to spread out away from each other. Ultimately going to be a nice little bonus for Selby as well. Ooh, as he played the shot into the red. And yeah, I mean, ain't going to praise him for this one though. And well, I mean, let's see what is going to be available now to Selby, because 40 points advantage with 99 on the table. I mean, it's a nice little cushion to have, but ultimately ain't going to be the one that gets him over the line here. And just watch the silence of that got there so long. Well, as I say, you'll have to ask the expert on that. And yeah, I mean, Selby is having a look for the safety approach. I mean, he's got plans available into the right corner, but as I say, it's not like he's 60 points away with 70 on the table. He's 40 with 99 on the table, so he can't really go for those plans unless he's absolutely certain that he's going to be able to make this one stick. And he's gone for it. Has he missed it? Yes, he has. And ultimately, is there going to be a way for Judd to try and exploit and get that red in? And I mean, he's left it over the corner pocket, but ultimately Selby knew what he was doing. He was clearly trying to do that on purpose. And yeah, trying to get the red to try and cannon that red away from the corner pocket and actually knock this one in. Ain't going to be the case here for Trump. Let's see what Selby's approach is going to be. I mean, he's got the top part of the table available to himself, but he ain't going to try and use it as it stands. And we could be in here for another safety battle, because Selby has used that sort of option to his name a couple of times already in this match, where he goes for the plant, where he knows if he misses it, he'll have a bunch of reds in the way of the cue ball, and therefore he doesn't really risk anything of giving away there to Chomp. These lads not giving an inch away, they're not, but you can understand that for them trying to battle it out in the final for the title when you've got 150,000 on the line as well. For Snooker, that's quite a lot of money out there. You know, it's 5 frames each. It turns into a first to 5 now, and one of those sort of short-term finals. Now let's see once again, Chomp just cannoning the cue ball into the red with a minor bit of contact, and Selby is going to try and do a similar sort of thing there. As I say, I don't really think. And I don't really understand the way we're going to get out of this situation, because if you're going to have one of the players to leave that gap open, well, it's going to be a massive blunder. So can't really see Selby making such a mistake. So has to be down to Chomp to just try and make sure he's going to be playing the sort of a slow game here. I think Selby's going to give 4 points away here to Chomp, because he was trying to give a bit of a minor contact on the cue ball, and in the end. And yes, Chomp doing with a little bit of a banter, just saying to the referee, put it back, and it has moved barely a millimetre. And yeah, Chomp clearly seeing the funny side of it there. Selby ain't really going to see the funny side of it though, because he's going to try and exploit the chance and go for the same approach. But of course, if he misses it twice there, you'll have to switch the place. And not going to be the case though. Second time of asking, managed to take this one. Clever player, Selby. Well, he is. As I say, that was the clever approach there for him. Trying to take that red into the right corner, and in the end not risking to give a lot away out there. Let's see if... Okay, so now it is a bit of a... Yeah, so it's a conversation between the referee and Chomp, whether he has hit the red. And so the referee, I think, wants to give a foul, and Chomp doesn't seem to be too convinced with the way either. So let's see if he's actually... Well... So, okay, so basically Chomp is saying that he's not sure about this one, and the referee is saying that because on the video review you can't actually see it clearly and obviously, which is the term of VAR anyway, you're going to be a foul given away to your opponent. And yes, 85,000 game, well technically a 90,000 game, but yes, hate to be that person, but yeah, it is 60,000 for the runner-up and 154 the winner of the campaign. So let's see now. It is going to be a foul shot given away back to Selby. So 40 points advantage is going to be restored back to Selby. And Chomp is going to have the same shot played. So gives the turn back to Mark. And Selby is just going to push the red onto a couple of more of those. I mean, the problem is, because that red is so close to the right corner, you can't actually have anything to send the cube onto the top part of the table. Okay, once again, so warning given to the players that Tatiana Wollaston now will be watching that the situation is going to develop. So no shots for now for the players, but ultimately, the way she says it is if we're not going to have this position to go any further in the next couple of shots, it is going to be a re-rack, and frame will go back to 0, which of course ain't going to benefit Mark Selby at this stage, because currently he's the player that has 40 points advantage to his name. So Selby is going to have to make something happen there if he wants to keep those 40 points, but also there's a fine margin for him in terms of not giving that red away to Judd Chomp, and ultimately, you know, it could be one of those situations where you'd rather lose 40 points advantage than give 80 points of a chance to Judd Chomp. So Selby doesn't look like he's going to sort of change his mind on this occasion. So let's just see if the situation indeed is going to develop, because I mean, from Chomp's point of view, he ain't going to be interested in trying to develop this position unless there's going to be an obvious opening there from Selby. Because, you know, he still would like to get himself in with a chance. So, okay, now we're getting shots. So, 5 each shots for the players to develop. So now it's going to be 5 shots for Mark Selby and 5 shots for Judd to make sure that the position is going to improve. And we're not going to be stuck in this sort of 50-50 zone forever. Therefore, now it is chance. It is time for Selby to try and make something happen. If, of course, he wants to keep those 40 points without giving that red into the right corner away to Judd. Re-rack, well, it is certainly going that way. And as I say, I think that's what they're saying on ITV. It's a good decision. I think it's the right decision anyway, because we can't be here forever. You know, we've already gone sort of 1 hour for 1 frame and a half to be played. Once again, back to Selby goes. So 1 shot each has already been played. So you've got 4 shots available for these two. And I wonder if any snooker player will eventually beat Ronnie O'Sullivan's record one day, 41 ranking titles. I mean, I think you're looking at one now, to be honest. And his name is Judd. For his age, I think he's going to be able to do that, you know. What is it now? 33 that he's looking for? 31. Yeah, he should be able to do that, you know. I know it's still going to depend on the way that he's going to approach those tournaments. And if he's maybe going to switch to the same lifestyle of Ronnie, of just going for and picking the tournaments that you're going to participate in. But for now, as it stands, I think, just like his century record, I think Trump will be able to beat him. For the simple reason of Trump plays in a different circumstances there. And, you know, talking the opposition players. So once again, Selby, 2 shots each now. So we're just getting it updated. So Selby still, of course, trying to be very, very careful on this one. And he's looking to try and put the cue ball with a bit of distance onto those reds, and therefore try and develop that position to an extent. And of course, it will help if he's got a touching ball now. Oh, he's going for a risky shot. So he's taking the red out of the left-hand cushion. So, you know, if he plays the shot badly, he's going to have that red given away to Chomp. And let's see what Chomp is going to have to say about this one. Because right now, Selby clearly wants, like he feels like he wants to keep those 40 points advantage to his name. But still marginally not really being into sort of a mood of giving situation and a position away here to Judd Chomp. And it is now going to be 1 shot each surely for the play to be developed. Yeah, so Selby clearly trying to be a bit clever now, because he's saying that he's taken that red away from the left-hand cushion. So he feels like the play is developed. The referee clearly doesn't feel that way. And I'll be honest with you, I have to agree with her. Because apart from that red being taken out onto the black ball cushion, it changed absolutely nothing. So you can understand the Selby's point. And, well, right now he's going to have to go for some measures now to try and send the cue ball very close to the green pocket. And, of course, it is going to be the time for him to try and do some action. So something's going to happen now, because Selby, as I say, does seem to be in the mood that he doesn't want to give that 40 points advantage away to Chomp. And Chomp, of course, is playing the game fairly and to his advantage of, you know, slowing the playing down this time around and just trying to force a re-rack, which is going to see that gap of 40 points overturned, not in Selby's favour. And yeah, of course, the thing is, you know, Selby's just trying to see now which sort of shot does he have to play to make sure that the play is going to develop. So let's see. So he's going to have some distance in between them. And now he has played the shot badly. So I don't think it's going to be a re-rack now all of a sudden. And it is going to be a beautiful chance given away to Judd Chomp, because Selby was trying to put the distance in between the cue ball and the reds. And ultimately, it's tried to do too much stuff at the same shot out there. I think he's left it too late because he's going to leave that red over the pocket for Judd Trump to try and take. And ultimately, it all comes down to the positional shot on the black that Trump is indeed going to manage or not manage to achieve. And I think he's played a decent shot right now. Well, not perfect. As I say, decent probably is the way to describe it. Now, has to make sure he rolls the black in, or all of that is going to be absolutely pointless there for him. Good shot, that. Good shot. Manages to get the black in and still gets himself lined up for the red. And, well, he's still not over the line here because he's got two difficult reds to try and get rid of. But he's certainly on his way to try and get that gap down to sort of absolutely 0 points. And playing a plant into the right corner, that's going to develop the reds even more. That's a nice little shot there that Trump has managed to find and played pretty well. And Trump, maybe Selby will need to try and move on. Yes, Selby was made to play that. Trump was never going to push it. Yeah, absolutely. But listen, you can understand both points. You can understand the fans. You can understand the referee. You can understand Trump. And you can understand Selby because we can't be here forever. We've been in that situation in the opening frame. And right now, it's going to be 2 frames, well over an hour. Not really something that you want to see in the start of the session because I don't think it's going to be one of those curfew rules that you got in the UK, but you don't really want the fans to stay over till tomorrow, especially with it being Monday. And, you know, some of the people, of course, will have work. Will have Riyadh season to get started in 2 days' time after this one. But ultimately, you just want to get a bit of the action other than just trying to send the cue ball backwards and forwards towards the Reds and away from the main pack. So, you know, Selby was given a warning before he was told that he's got 5 shots to try and play, and ultimately, you know, he was unable to develop the Reds in the way that, you know, the referee and well, probably me as well if you count that, and wasn't really satisfied with any sort of changes being made to the position, and therefore it is now a chance presented to Trump. But I mean, he's run himself into a little bit of a spot of bother now. Ooh, he's missed the yellow. He was going for the blue previously, and yeah, you can see the damage was done on that red, where he overscrewed massively for the pink, and in the end had to go for the yellow. And well, right now, once again, back to Selby goes. Of course, having that 40 points of advantage has pretty much guaranteed him a chance to get back in the frame. Had Trump made a mistake by the time he wasn't actually over the line in the frame. And now the change of the position is going to be very significant now because you've got 25 points of advantage for Selby. And therefore, he's not going to need any of those 2 difficult reds, which Trump would have required himself. And Selby, I think if he manages to get those 3 somewhat easy reds onto the left and right corner pockets, he's going to be able to get himself a very long-lasting frame on the board and ultimately, you know, put all those struggles to absolutely nothing. And Trump had his chance. He's played the game well, but didn't manage to take his chance that was presented to him. And will make Selby play better. Now, yes, I actually think that there's going to be a push on there for him. And, you know, he's going to be... I think he's going to be frustrated because he feels like the whole world has gone against him, and you can understand that. Let's see if he's going to have that frustration to be used in the right sort of manner and way for him. And, well, has to start off with taking couple of reds plus black combinations. So as I say, 59 points is on the table and 38 points is the advantage. So yeah, getting those 3 more shots there for him should get him over the line here. Getting the red, black and red combination is going to leave 43 points on the table. And at that stage, it is going to be a lot more of a gap on Mark Selby's point of view. Plays the shot well though into the right corner. Could have had that one missed. And he caught too much of the front jaw, and in the end just skids off the front part of the pocket and still drops into the right corner of the table. Plays the pink away from the cue ball now, and once again gets himself set up for a frame ball. So after all that, it still does look like it was the right decision for Selby to play on because, you know, he was trying to preserve that 40 points of a gap. He knew that he had some of those reds safe, and ultimately he didn't even get to that stage before Trump made an error, which should cost him the frame now. 47 points is the advantage. He'll be 52 when the blue disappears, therefore making Trump to go and try and find 3 snookers if he is to try and get this frame on his score sheet. Trump will bottle this like he does most finals. Nah, that's a rubbish comment to be fair, because I don't think he does bottle most of the finals. He's one of the most successful players on the World Snooker Tour. As I say, the fact that you're talking that you can try and beat that record of Ronnie O'Sullivan while still being so much younger than him is probably a sign of the opposite. And once again, remember, he was one frame away from making that 31 ranking event titles, and he managed to get that win against Jack Lisowski for the 4th time in the Belfast, defeating Jack for the 4th time, in the finals. GG certainly in this frame, because it is going to be the break of 37 points for Selby as he manages to knock both of the difficult reds in. So maybe they weren't as difficult, but of course it is a bit of a different shot that you're taking on when there's no real pressure on the way that you're taking that red into the right corner. And when you've got the frame onto your belt anyway. You know, Trump had his chance. It was quite a lengthy frame, but ultimately it is going to go the way of Mark Selby. Not quite a 50+ break though. So 46, and unless he pulls off a miraculous shot on the green, which he ain't going to do, it is going to be the break of 46 points to end the frame and make sure that it is going to be Mark Selby 6, John 5, going into frame number 12. You know, it's only 2 frames off the second session, but it has already been way over an hour of the main action thing, so certainly a taste of what probably is to come later on. And, well, I did say Selby needed to win that 11th frame, and he's managed to do that. So my original scoreline of 10 frames to 5, which I have done before the match started, is not going to be wrong. He's not going to be right on this one, with Selby managing to win 6 frames here, which I thought he's actually managed to do a really good job already. Because if you look at the way that Chomp managed to win the matches of the Champion of Champions previously, he was dominating them. Bai Yulu, Zhao Xington, Li Beifan. He hasn't lost more than 2 frames in sort of any of those matches, losing 5 in total to the first to 6 match format. It ain't really going to be an easy thing there for you to do, but Selby already managing to sort of make Trump lose more frames than he has in the entirety of this week in the Champion of Champions so far. And now Trump has to make sure he's going to be able to recover himself and ensure that it is not going to be the case for Selby to be running away with this one and having himself a sort of 7-5 and 8-5 of a gap to try and dictate the run of play, slow the game down once again, and just force Trump to be taking a conservative approach, therefore compromising his game and trying to play and get Trump into Selby's world, which I think is going to be very much the end of fluent and free-flowing play there for Judd. Trump wins more finals than losses, as I'll say, 67%. Not surprised by that at all, because of the way he's a true winner and he's one of the best. You know, he didn't become the world number 1 for a reason, and he still is comfortably away from everyone trying to chase him down. You know, he's got pretty much twice as many ranking points as Robertson, and I think he's still sort of the 3rd away on Wilson's point of view for the world number 2 and 3, trying to chase him down. Right then, let's see what Selby's going to be able to try and do off the break-off shot, as he now gets the cue ball to be sent onto the lower part of the table and try and get the reds to spread out in the way that he's not going to have any of those available for Trump to be taken into the right corner. I mean, he has left one quite close to being possible, but I wouldn't really call that an easy shot that you will take on when you suck 6-5 down. But let's see what Trump's decision is going to be on this one. Is he going to have to try and go for it, with the match trying to go against him at this stage? I think with Trump is, you have to make sure that he's going to be making the right decision, because, I mean, from this angle, it does seem like it's one of those reds that you can take on, but as I say, probably not when you're 6-5 down. And Trump refusing the shot and just getting the cue ball onto the lower part of the table and forcing Selby to try and dictate the run of play once again. Trying to get the cue ball onto the top part of the table and get those reds to spread out quite nicely there for him. And in the end, going for another short approach, so just pushing one red towards the right cushion. off the side of the table and leaving a couple of cross double options to Chom to try and choose from. I think just cannon the red into the main bunch. Ooh, he hasn't played the shot well at all. And I think he's actually managed to get away with this one. Yeah, he hasn't played the shot well at all because, I mean, I don't really understand what he was trying to do, but he caught the red way too thin for me and basically cannoned the cue ball to go onto the top part of the table whilst catching both of these reds. And ultimately just pushed one towards the cushion and towards the green pocket. So let's see if Selby is going to be taking this red on there with the red shot. As I say, so far, he has got the perfect record of those, but I don't really think he's going to be taking this on. I think he's going to try and get the cue ball onto the lower part of the table and to not even play just play a sage shot out of it. And I think that's exactly the way that he's gone for it. Clearly no intention of playing for the colour and just trying to get those reds close to each other on the right side cushion of the table. And keeping that 32 out of 32 rest spot success as a perfect 100% accuracy so far there for Selby. And if it is 67% for Chom to be winning finals, it is certainly going to be 100% for rest spot success so far for Mark Selby. And Chom going for aggressive approach once again. Doesn't want to catch the brown full ball though, and he will. So, going to give the momentum back to Selby here. I think it's still only in a safety matter of game. Don't think Chomp has left anything for the attacking approach for Selby to try and take. But ultimately, you know, he's managed to take those reds, and majority of them, into open play. So clearly trying to develop those reds in the way that whichever player gets the first chance is going to be able to exploit that a bit more than the opposition player. Now let's see if Selby managed to cover up that red by the left corner with the green. I don't think that's the case though. And yes, he hasn't. Chomp is going to be able to go for this one. It's one of those which you can feel like it's easy, but it really is not, especially with trying to control the cue ball for the black. And ultimately, it is going to be a red miss there by Chomp, so had to play with power. You can understand why. And ultimately, it is going to be a very costly mistake there from Judd. Have to make sure that he's going to be able to pick up the pace there on his long shot game. And now it is Selby to try and take the red into the right corner and, well, get himself a very nice little treat of going for the position that very much is going to be within his grasp. Now, get himself, once again, sort of a 40 points advantage and try and run away from Chomp, just like he's managed to do on the previous frame. But this time around, of course, try and make it finish with a visit to the table. Just trying to go for that red along the cushion to be played into the left corner. Let's see if he's going to try and take this approach and roll the black into the right corner. I think he has managed to do that here, and certainly has played the cue ball to be sent on for one of the reds on the black gold cushion. Let's see if the black is going to go back on his spot here, with it being very much touch and go. And if that is not the case, of course, you'll have to go back on the brown spot, with that being the only vacant spot out there. And I think that's going to impact chances for Mark Selby slightly, although that's going to give him a bit more of an opportunity to try and clear that red out of the way and have the black respotted once Selby gets the cube onto the top part of the table. So for now, he has to accelerate the angle on the white, get the pink to be eliminated into the left corner, and have himself lined up for the blue or pink to be taken into left middle or left corner pocket. Now, let's see what we're going to have on the cue ball side. Is he going to go for the blue? I think he's on the run for the blue there to be taking it, so has to go for the pink, you would think. But also, I mean, where's he finding the next red that he wants to take on? He's got the one into the right middle to try and play. And I think that's the approach that Selby has taken. So just roll that one in. That time around, of course, he'll have the guaranteed position on the blue if he makes this one stick. And, well, I mean, the pink spot ain't going to be available either, so the pink has to go very clear and very close towards the reds down the spine. And once again, just having a look to see whether the referee is going to be able to put it into a position which makes the pink playable into the left corner at least. I think that's going to be the case. And, well, Selby for now has to focus on taking the red into the right middle and getting himself either on the blue or the ball colours to be lined up for. Rolls the red in with absolutely no pace at all and plays the shot quite nicely. Selby good front runner, he is. That's the thing. He is a really good front runner, which is why you don't really want to have a 7-5 sort of fame advantage given away to him from Charm's point of view. Before we head into the final frame of the first mini session, and of course the last sort of any sort of break before we're going to know the name of the winner of this title. Is it going to be Mark Selby? Is it going to be Judd? Well, for now, probably is going to be. Mark Selby is a slight favourite, with him having that one frame advantage and also just having 22 points on the board while still being at the table and on the current break here. So roll the blue into the right middle and have yourself sort of bring the cue ball down the table once again. Maybe get that black spot finally, free up any sort of captivity off the reds. I think that's the approach that Selby is going to try and take right now. So let's see which one of those reds is actually going to try and eliminate out of his way. The one closer to the cue ball. And he's going to have the pink to be set up. So, I mean, it doesn't really need the black to be taken into the black spot for the simple reason of, the pink is still out of position, which is why right now, where do you think the pink is going to go? Exactly, he's going to go on the black spot, and therefore it is still going to be a perfect chance for Selby to try and build his break around not quite the most expensive colour, but still the one that is going to be second most expensive left on the table. And having 35 points advantage to his name is going to be quite handy as well. Now, rolls himself on the right side of the blue, so far, of course, you don't really see many positional play errors from Selby, and the ones that actually come from his side are probably going to be compromised for the fact of, he's going to try and roll the cue ball for the reds to be taken and try and develop a couple of more of them, and, maybe sometimes he's going to get the cue ball stuck to the bunch, maybe just run himself out of position on those sort of shots, but when it's simple positional play, you rarely see mistakes being made by Mark Selby, unless it's going to be quite early in the match and quite early in the frame. 41 points advantage, so he already goes above that sort of gap that he had to his name previously in that lengthy second frame against Judd, which has seen one more chance given away to Judd, and ultimately Selby. I don't think he's going to have that on his schedule and regime for this frame. Now, let's see if he's going to have a nice little shot for the cue ball to be sent into the reds. He will. Lovely little shot there, and just has to bridge over one more red there to take another red into the left corner. Plays that one nicely, and still he's going to be in prime position for the pink to be taken into the right corner. So has a little look for the position that he finds himself in, and goes for the pink into the right corner. But I mean, he's straight on this one. That's not going to be going according to plan. Has to make sure he's going to be going deep onto the pink. And Judd bottles it. Not quite. As I say, 7-5 of a gap for Selby. If that is to be the case, still not quite there. Especially if the cue ball is going to stop and not run enough of a distance. And he has. So Selby has to go for a difficult shot into the left middle. So maybe a bit of a jinx there, Stephen. Hasn't played the shot well at all. He had to be very precise with his cue ball control for the simple reason of he was straight on the pink, so therefore he couldn't play with topspin, which is always the easier option. So he had to make sure he judged the backspin, judged it perfectly on it. And in the end, let's see if he's going to be able to drop the red in. And of course, if that is to be the case, where's the cue ball going to finish? He's going to drop the red just about. And he ain't going to be on the colour though, I'll tell you that for free. It's a very, very difficult of a blue for him to take on onto the right middle, but don't really think that's a shot that you can see Selby taking on. He's got 55 points advantage. I mean, he does seem to go down for it pretty quickly, so maybe he's just trying to convince himself that it's not such of a difficult shot, but I'll be surprised if he manages to make this one stick without any issues. And he has. Where's the cue ball going to finish? Has he been unlucky? I think he has been unlucky with that one, because he had a red waiting for him over the left corner. And in the end, yeah, I think he's going to run himself out of position. So, yeah, you could see a little bit of a jinx work. Judd clearly hasn't bottled it just yet, because he's not even 7-5 down as it stands. He's 60 points down to be 7-5 down. But ultimately, he's got 7-5 remaining on the table. By the way, here you go. 75 points with 60 points of an advantage there for Selby's point of view. Now Mark just having a look to see where he's going to have the cue ball to try and place it onto the top part of the table. So, I mean, he wants to do it in a way that he doesn't have too many of those reds sort of close to each other, which is going to give a chance away to Jump, but also he wants to make sure that he's going to have that red by the left corner, which was playing for, covered up by another red onto the top part of the table. So now a break of 60 points is going to get him a comfortable lead. Of course, a lot more comfortable than a 40 points advantage in the previous frame, but still not going to be over the line just yet. And Trump is having a look to see if he's going to be able to go for a safety approach and maybe just roll the red into the red, which is closer to the left corner pocket. But I think at this stage, still is going to be a very tricky shot there for him to try and produce. So let's see the approach that is actually going to be taken there for Judd. And maybe he's going to try and go for the red to be taken into the right corner with a bit of one of those safety shots that you can play at the start of the frame. Of course, at this stage, it's going to be played in the way that you're going to have very, very little of an advantage there if you manage to miss that red. Oh, I mean, has he caught the wrong red first and still managed to drop the red in? Wow. I mean, no wonder he's apologised. He's caught the wrong red in, but he's still played that cut absolutely beautifully into the right corner. And, I mean, Stephen, talk about bottled it. He ain't bottled it just yet. He's got another chance out there. Majority of the reds are actually in a really nice position there. And the only real issue now is going to be the brown, which is currently above its spot and very close to the ball cushion, which is actually going to be quite a massive issue there for Chum, which, I mean, he's managed to lose the cue ball right now to extend on the pink. He's going to be all right now, but of course he has to make sure, you know, for now he's fine in terms of points if he is to miss the pink, but you'll leave the red on anyway for Selby. Has to make sure he's going to be very keen on the positional play, and he's going to have the cue ball to go into the jaws of the yellow pocket, and in the end, is he going to be able to see that red into the left corner? I mean, that's sloppy that from Chomp. Even though he's managed to play the pink nicely, he's going to leave himself on with either a very difficult of a long shot or a bit of a lucky shot there. He has to take that long shot into the right corner realistically, but rarely you see players, you know, when they run themselves out of position in such way, actually taking those shots. So he's going to be very difficult there for Chomp, but he takes it. Wow, that is a precious shot, well taken there by Judd. And that is going to be very much the difference between being the runner-up and getting the 60,000 of prize money, or getting 150,000 of those in his pocket. Lovely little shot there on the red. And the positional play sorted out perfectly on the pink. And ultimately, he's still back in the hunt, getting behind the red to try and take it into the right middle, which would have been the minor issue for him to try and deal with. Ooh, he was unhappy once again with the red fading towards the left-hand side of the pocket, but ultimately he has managed to drop in. So still all right for now, but a bit sloppy that and a bit scrappy from Charles' point of view. He wants to be just going a bit more free-flowing and get himself under more control, as his stance is still struggling there to an extent. You can see this match going all the way. Well, we have seen a lot of finals to go all the way. We've obviously nearly seen that with Karen Wilson against Ali Carter. That one finished with 11-9 of a scoreline, with Wilson producing a wonderful comeback on the frame number 20. You know, then we've seen brilliant clash decider with Robertson against O'Sullivan. Salgadon against Gary Wilson. Let's see where the cue ball is going to be heading now for Trump, as he takes the penultimate red into the left corner. So 34 points of a disadvantage. So he's still going to be fine in terms of taking any sort of colour after this red. Now he needs to be perfectly set up for the red to be taken into the right corner. And I think he's played a shot really, really well off the blue. Takes that one into the left middle and gets himself lined up for that red to be taking it into the right corner. And brown game, hey, it is going to be the brown ball game, with Trump being able to get that red into the right corner pocket. Is he going to be on the yellow now? So he's got 27 points. Yeah, so he can choose any colour that he wants to take. Ultimately, I think he'll go for the blue, which, I mean, he has landed the wrong side of it for it to be transitioning for the yellow. So has to play with a bit of power and traction on the cue ball. Played it quite nicely and gets himself lined up for the yellow to be taken into the, well, it's into its own pocket realistically. So 23 points is the gap for Selby, 27 on the table. So, as you say, Kevin, it is going to be a brown ball game. And that's not the way to start this game for Chomp, because he's going to be on the wrong side of the green, and a brown game is going to be ended now for Chomp because he had an advantage of actually being at the table. Ultimately, he's going to have a, well, I can't really see unless he tries to go around the entire table. He ain't going to be able to have position on the brown. So very much attentional pockets there for the cue ball, and watch out for him. Now he hasn't even played it, so clearly not the shot for the final for you to try and get the cue ball in and around the table. So it's just going to be a safety battle for the brown, with Chomp trying to stun the cue ball on the place of the brown and push it down the spine. And I think he's played the shot pretty well. Bit too much power on the brown. I think Selby's going to be able to get the brown in behind here from the black ball cushion. Going to play the shot a bit nicer there from Chomp's point of view. And of course, brown being so close to the black ball cushion anyway, it is going to be a perfect chance to Selby to try and actually take it away from Chomp in terms of him having an advantage. Now, you're going to have black on the brown spot as it stands, so probably the only real issue of transitioning the pink onto the black. But as I say, I don't really think it's going to be the problem for Chomp, because Selby ain't going to need that. You know, he's 18 points clear, so he only needs the brown as it stands. But he does seem to be a bit concerned on the shot that he's got lined up ahead of himself. So has to be taking a very cautious approach. Sending the cue ball down the table once again. Let's see if he's going to have enough power on the white to try and hammer that one into the brown with a lot of conviction. No conviction at all. Is he going to leave the brown? Yes, he will. Caught that one on the edge, and ultimately it was a lovely little shot being played by Chomp. I still think that Selby could have played that one a bit better, but ultimately now it is going to be a 4-colour clearance for a 6-hole draw, for it to be going all the way for now, and certainly guarantee us to witness 16 out of 19 possible frames. Chomp does seem to be a bit cautious about taking the brown on. I still think he'll go for it, but clearly doesn't feel like it's going to be such easy of a cut there for him, and maybe he's just cautious about cannoning the cue ball into the pink. And, well, if he gets himself set up for the blue to be taken into the yellow pocket, I just feel like it's not even worth the risk in that case. And, you know, if you know that that's your best chance, then just try and get the cue ball in behind the green, in behind the pink, and get yourself another snooker. Let's see. Doesn't really strike me as a sort of Judd Chomp's approach. Oh, he's going to cannon the cue ball into the pink. Let's see whether red is going to finish. The pink is going to finish a bit out of position, and yeah, it's a good shot there from Chomp in terms of he managed to get a lot of traction on the cue ball and he got it closer to the blue, but ultimately he's finished pretty much straight under it. I mean, if he takes this one on, he's got absolutely no guarantee of landing himself up for the pink. Chomp game on. I mean, it is, but is it actually? Because it's a very difficult blue to be taken into the green pocket, and the pink is still out of position. And for that to be added to your problems, the black is out of position, and basically you need 3 perfect shots. He's played a really good one on the brown, but he's run himself out of position on the blue. I still think he'll go for this blue, but I also think that he'll miss at least one of those shots. And he managed to get just about, but managed to get the blue in. A very nervous wait there for him, because he was approaching the front jaw of the green pocket, managed to roll that one in. But now, surely that is one shot too many for you to try and take. He can take the pink down the cushion, but has to play with power to get himself lined up for the black. And ultimately, you just feel like, as I say, he's going to miss one of those shots for me. He's still not been playing his best snooker, and therefore can't really go for that approach. But he will go for it, and he'll miss the pink, and let's see where he's going to finish. Yeah, he's going to finish perfectly on the plate there for Selby, you would think. He will. I did call it. Don't think you should have taken that shot on. And, well, they say on the plate, it's a perfect chance which you're going to get there from Selby's point of view. But the cube, well, it basically is on the plate. I'm not really going to sort of try and talk too much about it because he's going to have a... Yeah, I was going to say that Selby wasn't actually taking the pink on, but he was. And he's missed it. Wow. Maybe there's a bit of pressure. I'm not going to change my mind at all. He should have potted that. Maybe it wasn't as easy as I thought previously, but ultimately he should have been potting that. And Chompy's back in the game. And this time around it is going to be paintball game. Try and get the cue ball in behind the black, but ultimately make sure you're not going to have any sort of chance given away to Selby to try and get that pink into the right corner pocket. I think Chomp has managed to play that shot pretty well. Don't think he's left on the pink to be taken into the right corner. Therefore, Selby has to take the approach, which is going to see the cue ball disappear onto the top part of the table. And therefore, don't really think he's going to try and even attempt taking the pink into the right corner. He wasn't. Let's see where the pink is going to finish up. And he clearly was trying to get the black in between those two. I think it is going to be a straightforward cushion first shot. It's going to be a bit limited in terms of control there for Trump. So maybe Selby doing enough of the damage at this stage. Ooh, the pink is going to be coming very close to the left corner pocket. In the end, he's going to bounce away from the jaws and still go along the cushion onto the top part of the table. So that's fine. Not quite onto the top part of it, but sort of alongside the pink spot anyway. And, well, cross double not really an option there for Selby. Therefore, has to be careful with making a double kiss on the way back for the cue ball. Just playing this shot with great care and certainly great conviction. Yeah, had to be careful with double kiss. Play the shot well. Play the shot really, really well. He's going to get the pink as close as you're ever going to get to the ball cushion. And ultimately, going to have the cue ball position right underneath it. So a lot of distance in between the pink and the cue ball. And ultimately, very much little angle in between those two. Trump can't really afford to be trying to go for the cue ball in behind the black. Oh, he had a double kiss. Is he going to get away with this one? I think he will. Yeah, he will. Don't think that pink is going to be possible there for Selby. And, well, Selby smiling about this one. So maybe he's just feeling that the luck has turned on against him. Especially in the second session for now. But probably have said that it has been very equal so far at this stage. And Selby having a look to see if he's going to be able to go for the pink into the left corner. Probably not on this occasion. And, you know, the fact that Chomp has apologised clearly feels like it ain't going to be possible there for Selby. And Mark is just going to try and guide the pink onto the left cushion of the side part of the table. So back to Chomp we go. And, of course, doesn't have a double lined up for him. And can just try and get the cue ball into the black ball cushion yet again. Have the pink to be sent down that spine and onto the top part of it. Play the shot nicely. Especially if he's not going to show any sort of the edge there for Selby. And I think the pink is going to be visible there to Selby on this occasion. But still a nice little shot there. Played really well by Chomp. And ultimately, Mark is going to have that one checked until he's going to have to play the safety shot here. Trying to get very thin on the edge there with that pink. And playing the shot with all sorts of power and conviction. So once again, just looking at the scoreboard. I'm not too sure what he wants to see out there. He needs the pink, and Trump will need both of these colours to try and get himself for a 6-all draw. So certainly not bottled that one just yet. And I mean, Selby's having a good look at this pink. Because if he is to catch it too thin, he's going to put it over the yellow pocket there for Chomp. And therefore, you know, that's not really going to be on the plan schedule for Mark Selby. Oh, he got that one really, really thin. I mean, as thin as you're actually ever going to get that one. And probably that's why, to be fair, Selby was looking at the scoreboard to see if he was going to miss the cue ball on actually going for the pink. And he was going to give 6 points away to Chomp. Was he still going to be in that position with Chomp sort of being the player that he's going to require 2 colours and not just one? And in the end, oh, another double kiss. But this time around, he ain't going to be lucky with this one. And... oh, it's a frame conceded. Wow, that is an absolute world-class drama stuff, because in one shot, you have gone from Mark Selby being on the back foot to him actually winning the frame. Judd has gone in off there and dropped the cue ball after a double kiss with the pink, and ultimately it was 15 points down. Wasn't going to try and find a snooker at that occasion, and it is going to be Mark Selby 7, Judd 5 as we approach the final session of the opening mini session now in session number 2. And let's see if it is going to be 3 on the bounce there for Selby, because he had a 5-all draw overturned into a 7-5 frame advantage into his favour. And although it's not why, of course, it's a problem there for Judd to try and find himself on the right end of, but still, it's not going to be such an absolute unbelievable margin for him to try and come back from. But 8-5 might actually turn into that sort of thing, and you can't really see Selby losing sort of 5 of the last 6 frames there, which would be the requirement for Chomp to actually get himself onto claiming the title of the Champion of Champions. So after had quite a dreadful finale against Mark Allen a couple of years ago, after he already managed to win in 2021, we'll see if it is going to be history repeating itself, and Mark Selby just running away with this one. But of course, too early to say that. Selby still needs to get 3 more frames there, and disaster. It is a disaster, but because you could actually see that one coming, Chomp was a bit lucky with the double kiss that he got previously, and Selby was smiling about it, but clearly thought like, I hope the next time the luck is not going to benefit you to that extent, and it certainly didn't. And right now, it is going to be Mark Selby dictating the run of play and trying to get himself off into a very comfortable start indeed. Onto frame number 13. And now, it all comes down to this frame now for John, because if he is going to be losing 3 frames on the bounce at such a late stage of the final, he is going to be in massive sorts of trouble. It is going to be, though, Judd to break off here. And he was, of course, the last player to play a shot and actually pot a ball. Of course, it was the cue ball at that stage, which has meant that he wasn't able to catch Selby with enough points on the table. And you can see the replay. Of course, I mean, from that angle, you feel like going in off is pretty much impossible, especially into the green pocket, because the pink was set up perfectly on the middle of the black on the ball cushion. Therefore, realistically, the only way for you to get the cue ball to drop into the green pocket was through a double kiss. Of course, that was the case. First attempt is not going to be taken well by Selby, and after Judd sees him not snookered, but in a difficult position, so has to play a cushion first shot, and Chomp is just having a look to see if he's going to have anything available to his name. And, he's having a good look at this one. So maybe just not really going for an attacking approach, but trying to see if there's going to be a better chance there for him to play a safety shot off, which is going to put Mark Selby to a bit more of a scrutiny. From Chomp's point of view, big frame for Chomp, it certainly is now. And he's going to take the position from here. Certainly looks like now. And give the turn back to him. And it goes for the extension. So clearly feels like he can get Selby into some sort of trouble. Or he feels like that Selby was going to get the cue ball into the bunch of reds from the second attempt, no problem. Let's see what the approach from Chomp's point of view is going to be like right now. Trying to get this red to go into the left part of the table and avoid the brown on the way onto the top part of it, and hasn't managed to do that. And in the end, well, right now you have to say it was the wrong choice there by Chomp, because he's left a wonderful little red up as an opportunity to Selby. Yeah, Chomp ain't going to be happy with himself, because when you have that chance of putting your opponent back into play, the last thing that you want to do is take that play away from him and still make the mess of that. Selby certainly is going to roll the red in, as he does. Gets himself positioned quite nicely for the black to be taken into the left corner. And, it's just like, you could see this one coming, unfortunately, from Chomp's point of view, because I think he's been making way too many wrong decisions previously in this final. And ultimately, that has to be added to the list of those. Selby takes that black nicely into the right corner, but ultimately, is he going to be getting himself on the red into the opposite side of the table? I think he just about will. So got a bit lucky with the kiss out there. Had to be a bit more careful on the approach for the cue ball. Played that one with power, and therefore was only a couple of inches away from running himself out of position from the right-hand side of the table. Ultimately not from the left-hand side, but still would have made the position a bit more tricky there for him. Now let's see what shot he's going to be taking on the black to try and send the cue ball onto the right-hand side of the table. It's now 12 points advantage for Selby. 2 reds, 2 blacks taken nicely, and 1 more red to go into the left corner. Still going to have 3 more of those if you count this one to try and take away from Chomp and get himself some sort of a cushion to try and lead on to the second part of the frame. Oh, he's played the shot with a bit of a risky approach once again. This time around, tried to cannon the red from the cushion, which already was in a decent situation previously, but cannoned it into even more of an open play. Could have run himself with the cue ball being snookered on the black. In the end, that wasn't the case. And 20 points of advantage, so it's going to be perfect position re-established there for Selby. 1 more red taken into the right corner, and of course then we're going to be down to the last red available for Selby into the left corner to be taken, unless Mark manages to get the cue ball into the bunch of reds and have at least a couple more to go into the open play for himself. He hasn't managed to do that, but ultimately he still managed to put one of those reds onto the right-hand cushion, which at this stage, for him trying to be on the dominant part of the frame, is going to be a nice little advantage there. So Monk just checking to see if he's going to be able to reach the red into the left corner. So doesn't quite want to go for and reach for the rest this time around. Of course, he does have that perfect pot success percentage, but I think it also is going to be very much the case for the reason of, he only takes the rest when he has to. And sometimes he's going to just try and make sure he's going to be able to reach that cue ball with an extension. 26 points now is the advantage for Selby. Having 2 more reds available, of course, he's managed to get himself 1 more into the open play after having to play the cue ball into the main bunch of reds. Cannon 1 of those reds onto the cushion and 1 more into an open play, but still very much limited of an open play because he's going to have that red available to himself. But, don't really going to say that he's going to have an easy positional shot after this one to play for the colour. Here says Chomp. Certainly, can't really argue with that one. It's a statement and a half. Now, another important shot here for Selby. Doesn't want to be straight on the black either. I mean, he ain't going to be straight on the black, but realistically, what red is he playing for right now? Is he going to be trying to go for the one along the cushion, which, I really didn't count on Selby going for that one so early in the break. Can't really see him going for that red onto the top part of the table, so try and do it along the cushion. And he will. Well, it's one of those reds which it does look like it's going to be easy for you to drop in, but ultimately he can't really drop it in. Doesn't have the angle on the cue ball to drop this one in. He has to play with power to get himself lined up for the black to be taken into left or right corner. Therefore, has to play with precision and accuracy on the red's point of view. Can't afford to catch any of the jaws of the pocket. And don't think it's going to be easy there for Mark, and has to make sure he's played this one spot on. Ooh, he hasn't played it spot on, but he's still played it well enough to drop the red in. Ultimately caught the back end jaw, which is a bit more forgiving because it has got that little bit of a cushion for you to drop the red into the pocket, whereas if you catch the front end jaw, it's going to push the red away from the pocket and ultimately just, decrease his chances massively of making the pot in. And now the red that I mentioned, which is going to be on the right-hand side of the pink, is going to be available for Mark to try and take it after the shot off the black, or he can try and send the cue ball into the main pack of reds and have those to spread out as wide as he possibly can. Didn't play the shot well at all, and I think he's going to be lucky if he's going to have the red into the middle. I think he's got that. Very surprised. He's taken all the power out of the shot, and in the end, he's very lucky. Basically, he's got the 3 reds on top of the cue ball. He's got 3 reds exactly sort of alongside the cue ball, and he's got that diagonal line for the right middle, which is all available, and he's got a red right in this diagonal line. So, don't really think he's played the shot well enough, but ultimately, he gets the result. That's the only thing that matters. as he now approaching for that 3-frame lead for him to take the match very much into his own hands. Well, didn't play the shot well enough on this occasion, and rolls the red into the right corner. It's going to have to be my next words being said, but ultimately he's going to try and do it with the rest shot. So it has to do it with precision and also with a bit of power to have the cue ball lined up on the black to be taken. So Tiana Wallace just giving him a hand with the rest to be taken. So is he going to be 33 out of 33 there for Selby? But also, I mean, sort of perfect accuracy and perfect precision is going to be one thing, but also you have to make sure you're going to be able to get this red into the right corner and also get yourself a guaranteed positional play on the black to be taken. And he's managed to find the perfect gap in between those reds to get himself set up for the black to be taking it into the right corner. 49 points is the advantage for Mark Selby as it stands, with still having 83 points on the table, as he tries to approach that lead with great conviction there for himself. And, play this shot through the way of the cue ball being sent onto the top part of the table. Oh, he's played that one into the reds. Is he going to be lucky this time around? I think he's played that one better, and ultimately not going to be all down to the luck, but he's still going to have a red available once again into the right middle to try and take it. Well, Stephen, if you're going to get one more out of those, you're going to be out of here, because I don't really like the bottle from Chomp in the first place. And, if you're going to say that George Chomp is going to be match-fixing matches, I mean, I haven't got a clue clearly. Now, very important shot there for Selby to be taken. Off a red into the right middle. He manages to drop this one in nicely. 57 points is the advantage there for him. Gets himself lined up perfectly on the black yet again. And play the cue ball through the shot on the black. Get himself lined up for the cue ball to be sent. On for the reds to be set up for the left corner. He's running away with it. Well, Selby is trying to do that. 64 points ahead now. He's going to be able to get himself over the line with the next red plus color combination. And now rolls the red in. Going to have himself positioned for the pink to be taken into the left middle. So now 65 points advantage to make it 71 with the pink. Still 100% on rest play legend. Yes, has to say that. And has played really, really well. Can't really say that. He's managed to take the Chomp out of his game and played really, really slow. He's managed to take the game to Chomp and certainly perform on one of the highest levels that we've seen Mark Selby in the last couple of seasons. And certainly going to be an 8-5 of scoreline for Chomp to be on the receiving end of. Let's just see if we're going to see a century break now from Mark Selby. Point of view, it's now a break of 83 points. Gets himself lined up for the red to be taken. And gets himself lined up for the black once again into the left corner. So now once again, Chomp is going to be looking concerned out there. And can try and go for the black into the left corner once again. Play that one with power. And play the shot really nicely yet again. I mean, lines himself up for a break of 91 points. And ultimately, is he going to be going for one more of a century break? We've seen a couple of those from Judd Chomp. And now are we going to see number 2 from Mark Selby? He's done here, and it is a GG's frame, certainly. Has been for a while now. It's all about if Selby's actually going to make a century break. Gets himself onto a short selection of either green or blue to be taken right now. So still going to be fine for a century to be made on the next sort of red plus color combination. 95 right now. Rolls the red to be positioned for the left middle. And ultimately gets himself lined up nicely for the black to be taken into the right corner. So now play this one with a bit of power and inject the pace on the shot of the red. And he's going to drop this in. Still going to have the positional shot on the black. So now to go 103 points. So another beautiful little break there. Of course, to go beyond that 102 points that he managed to achieve in the previous time. And now going to play this shot really, really nicely. And what a break this has been for Mark Selby. Still gets himself lined up for the shot to be taken along the cushion. And lovely little performance that from him. Another comfortable display. And another frame that has seen Judd Chomp very much on the receiving end of things and spending the most of the time sat in his chair. Selby has done nothing all season, has he? Well, hasn't done a lot, but it's not like, as Judd has actually managed to absolutely be the star of the show. Selby still managed to get the semi-final of the Home Nation Series, and Trump managed to be the runner-up himself at the Belfast, at another Home Nation Series, to Jack Lisowski missing out in a decider match at that time. And now Selby says that he's trying to get up the highest break by Chom, taken away from him. Only needs a couple of more shots for that to be the case. 923 century for Selby. He's getting ever closer to that 1000 club, which currently has John Higgins, Ronnie O'Sullivan and Judd. All three of those brilliant players. Selby's going to be... And Neil Robertson, by the way. Forgot about him because he only recently joined that club, making 1000 century. I think he was in the qualifiers of the International Championship. But ultimately, it is going to be the highest break that we've seen in this match. And it is going to be performed by Mark Selby. 120 points on the break. Now just a couple of shots for him to get this mini session to be done and over with. Do you think so? Nah, not really. I still think if it's going to be 9-5, I'll say it's over. But 8-5, I still can see Trump trying to turn this around and at least give him a chance. Break can change sometimes, that's what I say. And game can be a very interesting thing there for you. Oh, he's going to have a massive shot now for a 138 clearance, Selby. Let's see if we're going to be heading into the intermission with a perfect finish to this frame number 13. And it will be the perfect finish for Mark Selby. A break of up 138 there is going to mean that Selby's going to be leading Judd by a scoreline of 8 frames to 5. And winning 3 frames on the bounce himself. Let's go on to the intermission. Break of 15 minutes time. And then we'll be back for more action and right to the line to see which one of the players is going to be crowned the champion of champions here. Right then, the intermission is now over, and let's time to get back into the main action. And let's see if it is going to be, well, Mark Selby trying to finish the job off, or is he going to be Judd trying to produce a comeback for the ages? And here we are, last lap. It is certainly going to be the last lap, all or nothing. And remember what happens when you're trying to be on the chasing end of things. You're going to have to be going for those risky shots, which would have been the ultimate plan there earlier on for Mark Selby. He's going to get us onto waiting frame number 14. And let's see if it is going to be 15 or maybe the entirety of the 19 frames to see out sweetness between these two wonderful players. Mark Selby has managed to step up his game massively, and well, right now, you know, they've been saying on the commentary, we have to see lights out snooker from Judd. He has struggled with long shots. His safety hasn't been his strongest step either, and well, from that point, you have to say that he needs to be playing some good snooker here, and he has to be playing right now. And also, this scoreline, you probably have to rely on some of the mistakes being made from Selby's point of view. And let's see if we're going to see that, because if we are to see that, we need to ensure that we're going to see it right here, right now, in frame number 14. Because, you know, if Selby gets himself a 9-5 of an advantage, it's going to be way too late for Chomp, and absolutely ain't going to be able to win 5 frames on the bounce against someone like as consistent as Mark Selby actually is. So once again, an early safety battle to have us started off with. Roll the cue ball in for a cross double shot off the red. We got to have the cue ball very close to the yellow pocket, but ultimately don't think he's going to drop this time. And Selby's going to play a decent safety shot. Have black and the pink both covered up at this stage, so not going to have any risky shots to try and play for the black just at this stage right now. Ooh, it's going to be a bit risky that from Tron though. Ooh, I mean, that is as lucky as you're ever going to get about this one, because Trump has pushed the red onto the right corner pocket, cannoned into the yellow, and has ended up absolutely perfectly, inch perfect, in behind the brown. It's one of the best snookers that you could see all week, and I mean, the fact that he's gone on a fluke and off the left-hand side of the jaw from Jump, it is going to be certainly a very difficult of a situation out there. And let's see what Selby is going to try and do at this situation to get himself started. Well, Chomp certainly needs it, but, you know, Selby was saying previously that he didn't really... Well, I'm not saying that he was saying that, but he looked like he was not really enjoying the way that luck has been against him. But if you ever need a proof for it, there it is. And let's see if Selby's going to be able to get himself out of this position. And as I say, the fact that the black is covered up by a couple of reds, the pink is not necessarily available into all 4 main pockets, probably going to be a massive advantage now to Selby, because can't really see him getting the cue ball safe. Let's see, he's trying to get very close to that red onto the right hand cushion, and he's playing the shot pretty well. He's still going to leave a red out for Judd to try and take into the left middle, but ultimately it's probably about as nice of a recovery shot that Mark Selby could have actually played out there. And now it comes down to if Judd is going to go for the red to be taking into the left middle. I think he has to. I think he's going to be able to get the cube past the red and lining up for a shot of the cue ball. Hasn't played the shot well at all. Managed to get the red in, but going to be very, very straight on the pink. And I mean, blue to be taking into towards the green pocket ain't going to be easy. I mean, it does look like he's actually taking this one on there. So one of those shots that if you miss, it's going to cost you in a match. And he's missed it. Oops, could be curtains, especially if Selby manages to convert this break into the one that is going to count for him. And he's got a nice little position up ahead of himself. And the reason I say could be curtains is because I haven't really seen Selby make the mess of these types of positions so far in the match. Asking the referee to clean the white first. And something... Well, I just think something seems off with Chomp and the way that he's taking those shots. And he's taking the aggressive shots. And it's going to be difficult there for him to try and make this one work for him. For the simple reason of he's not been playing too well. You know, breaking news, but he has to be playing well right now because he's 3 frames down. But as I say, it is going to be game over if he loses this frame as well. Selby with a nice little shot in terms of getting the pot in, and gets himself set up perfectly for the ping to be taken into the left corner. Play the shot with absolutely all sorts of power and all the sorts of conviction on that shot, and just having a look to see if he's going to be able to go for that red to be taken into the left middle at this stage. Play through the pink to be taken into the left corner. Get himself lined up for the red into towards the left middle or left corner. Depends on his preference, what he wants to go for. And in the end, it is going to be, once again, a nice little chance presented to Selby, which I have a feeling that he certainly will be desperate to take for, but he's got all the tools now. He just has to require one bit of execution, and he's going to be able to run himself away into a 4-frame gap, which at this stage can't really see Judd recovering from. And the problem for Chomp is going to be that it's not like Selby's played horribly in this final. He's actually played really well. I'm not going to say he's played brilliantly, but he's played really well. He's had some decent snooker, he had some bad snooker, but for the majority of it, he's been either really solid or been playing really, really well. You know, he's got himself 2 century breaks on his way onto that 8-5 of a lead. And by the way, he had there was a point in the match where Chomp was leading by 3 frames to 1, and all of a sudden we've got Selby taking that match into a zone of an 8-5 an advantage. So that's 13 frames being played. So out of 9 frames, Selby has managed to take 7 of them and only lose 2 to Chomp. That is unacceptable for you to be the case in the final, though. Selby gets himself in a bit of a danger zone, trying to take the black into the right corner. Has he managed to roll this one in? He has. Easy on the red. He is. You see, that's the difference. When Chomp was having to play those shots, maybe he'll get the black in, but he ain't going to be on the red. And in the end, Selby manages to get the black in and still be quite nicely on the red position into the left middle or left corner to be taken. And that's why you got the scoreline of 8 frames to 5 there in favour of Mark Selby. He's managed to grind out some of the important frames, and ultimately he's managed to take the ones where he was showing some free-flowing stuff. And ultimately you have to go back to that frame of Chomp challenging for 6-all, and ultimately managed to go in off the cue ball and drop that one in. Go to 5-7 of a gap to be trying to come back from. So he was able to produce a wonderful little clearance of a 138 points scored. And now ring-to-ring zone where it is very much the endgame phase for Mark Selby to try and get himself a couple of more frames on the board. And then all of a sudden it is going to be Mark Selby to lift the title, if he is of course to win this frame, which does seem to be likely right now, and win one of the remaining 5 frames or so. And as I say, for now, it is very much going to be, for me, the favourite for Selby to try and end it with a scoreline of 10 frames to 6, 10 frames to 7. I don't think it's going to be 10-5 because, you know, it does seem like it's going to take players some time to get over the line there in the final. We've seen that with Wu Yize in his performance in the International Championship. I think we've seen that with Jack Lisowski when he was leading Jack John by a scoreline of 8 frames to 7. Still needed a decider to get him that one extra chance, which he also managed to produce and make the most out of in Belfast. And well, not quite the case with Mark Williams and Shaun Murphy, but that of course was a very different situation for the battering that Williams has done to Murphy and beating him with a scoreline of 10 frames to 3. Murphy against McGill wasn't really the case at the British Open either. And you can bring up the couple of deciders for English Open, Wuhan Open and Saudi Arabian Masters. So right now, it is going to be one of the most comfortable scorelines to be heading into frame number 15. If Selby does manage to put this frame away into his favour. Once again, scoring a break of 40 plus points in 3 frames on the bounce. Of course, managed to score a couple of those where he was trying to go against the odds there and trying to chase Judd. Of course, didn't manage to do that on that occasion. And the break of 46 points didn't actually lead him anywhere. But now he's got a 40 points of advantage where it's 83 points still on the table. And The blues will be taken into the left middle now. Let's see if he's going to try and miss those reds and get the cue ball to bounce away from the black ball cushion. Oh, he's trying to play the cue ball into the reds, and he landed on any of those. Don't think he has into the left corner, so it all comes down to that red. If you can see it in the right corner. I mean, it does seem like he's actually on the red into the left corner, so maybe he's just having a look to see if he's got a better red available to him. But yeah, as I say, he's got this red available, and that means it is going to be a massive mistake needed there for Judd's point of view to get him one more chance there in this frame number 14. But ultimately, I have to say that ever since that opening mini session and that 3-1 of a gap in Trump's favour, Selby has turned up as a different man and managed to take the game to Judd. Some of the occasions he managed to dictate his own run of play, but ultimately on some of these occasions he also managed to perform quite brilliantly against Trump and get himself into the position of trying to lead by 9 frames to 5. Trump unhappy, Selby in command. He is. And the thing about Trump is you can criticise him, and probably rightly so, but you have to give an almighty praise to Selby because he was such a massive underdog for me going into this match. It's just like, I thought about it yesterday, and I was just thinking with a scoreline to go with, and I actually said to myself, I can't see for the life of me Selby defeating Trump because of the way that Trump has actually managed to be so free-flowing and playing so well in the early stages of the tournament. And you see, that was the case, but only for the first mini session, and ever since Selby has managed to dictate his play and take the game to Trump and managed to come out as the better player, and now rolls the black in to ensure that it is going to be a 9-5 lead there for him to be taken into the next frame, and still doesn't seem like there's going to be a nerve-wracking moment for him. 68 points away from Trump with 59 on the table, so take the red along the black ball cushion to ensure that Trump ain't going to be coming back to the table once again. Second title of the season for Selby, maybe. I don't think it is, because I don't think he had the first one. It's going to be his first, well, maybe you say of the year, but not of the season. I think he managed to win one in, was it Tour Championship, when he managed to defeat, was it John Higgins? No, sorry, he's lost out to John Higgins at that time. So, yeah, as I say, I can't really remember if he managed to win one last season. I think a Welsh Open, wasn't it? Welsh Open he managed to take. There you go, that's the one. And right now, he's going to be very much knocking on the door there for the Invitational win of the Champion of Champions. Can he do a little bit of a back-to-back century breaks? 85 points on the board. Trump Q will be holding his tomatoes plans up soon. Well, yeah, as I say, I don't really think it's going to be sharing the same destiny with Ronnie O'Sullivan's cue, but might not be too far away from it, of actually ended up in the bin quite quick after this match. Now take the black into the left corner for Selby, get himself lined up for the red to be taken along the cushion, and 93 points on the break. Try and accelerate off into another century, and back-to-back centuries there by Mark Selby. 3 for him in this match, and of course the 5th one in this final to be made. Only one shot between Selby and actually making that 3rd century of taking the black into the left corner. Crowd happy. I mean, crowd will be absolutely ecstatic, and so they should be. I mean, they came here to see good snooker, and I still think they've seen a good part of it. And the cue ball's going to stay out, and it is going to be a lovely little century break once again. Back-to-back centuries by Mark Selby. The first one was 138 points, and if he gets the yellow in, he's going to have a nice little chance of trying to replicate a 120 plus break. Not this occasion, but ultimately he ain't gonna matter one bit, because if you had any sort of predictions, forget about them. And it is Mark Selby 9, Watchalong 5, as we head into what could be the last frame of the match here, frame number 15. You know, it was 5-4 of a lead, which Selby was taking into the second session. He managed to lose the first frame, so it was a scoreline of 5 frames each. And now Selby managed to win 4 frames on the bounce to get himself within 1 frame away of actually making this final, the one that counts for him. And let's see if he's going to be able to do it on the first time of asking. But even if that's not to be the case, you'll have a couple of more of those tries because of the position that Trump has put himself under a lot of scrutiny and under a lot of pressure. I say under a lot of pressure. He'll probably be at that stage where it's no pressure at all, because I don't really think he'll be believing in himself to actually win this one. But one thing I will say about Trump, he has to make sure he's going to be able to believe that he's going to be able to take at least one frame. One frame can turn into two frames can turn into 3, and then all of a sudden, that time, it's a 9-8 of a deficit, and you can try and do something with it. But until that point, it is going to be Selby with a massive favourite on his name, and trying to close the game down, and trying to ensure that it is going to be second defeat in the final for this season for Judd after losing out to Jack Lisowski. I think he would have enjoyed that defeat a lot more there, because, if you take the sporting points out of it, you've got the sort of psychological point of view for Jack finally winning his maiden ranking event title. Don't think he's going to have the same piece of joy there if Selby is to defeat him. But ultimately, let's see if that needs to be the case as we approach now frame number 15 to get underway. And let's see if Judd has got anything else for us to offer, or is it going to be a Mark Selby story writing in the history books? And of course, remember, I did mention that we've had 4 different Champion of Champions winners in the last 4 seasons. We had Mark Williams, we had Mark Cullen, we had Ronnie O'Sullivan, and then we had Judd. So could it be 3 marks on the bounce, by the way, because we had Mark Cullen in 2023, we had Mark Williams in 2024, Mark Selby is 1 frame away from making it 3 marks on the bounce, and making it 5 different winners in 5 years' time. I think it is also going to be the 5th final of Champion of Champions that Judd is going to lose. I know he's lost one to Ronnie, I know he's lost one to Mark Cullen. And, could he lose one more there to Mark Selby? He's got a break-off shot now, but that's probably where the good news is going to end there for him. The black is going to be available for the time being. And it's actually quite a decent break-off shot there by Trump. And let's see what the approach is going to be taken. Is it going to be one of those, I'm going to go for it, and if I'm going to lose, I'm going to lose right now? Or is it going to be, I'll try and wear Selby down and try and put a bit more pressure on him at this stage? Selby straight away has got a 2-cushion escape to try and find himself on the right edge of. So try and get the cue ball diagonally to the right hand side of the table. And once again, I mean, if he's going to play shots like that, he ain't going to be stoppable, because he's managed to get that one first time perfectly on the edge of the red, get the cue ball lined up for the yellow, and even though he caught the yellow pretty much full ball, still not going to have anything easy available for Judd, certainly to take for the aggressive approach. So now let's see what we're going to witness from Judd's point of view. Has he got one more shot in him to try and have another safety battle, one against Mark Selby, or is he going to be one of those which is going to lose once more here? Leaves a long red available for Selby, and we all know what happened last time he's done that. Selby managed to take it and turn it into a century break. Of course, back-to-back centuries there for him. Surely he can't do it 3 on the bounce, but if he does, he'll be one of the best individual performances in the season. And I think that the only performance that could probably go beyond that is going to be either Mark Williams and that dominant win against Shaun Murphy, or Neil Robertson managing to have that incredible break in Saudi Arabia under all sorts of pressure against Ronnie O'Sullivan. Tom needs a big break. He needs a couple of big breaks, but I think he needs a trip home now, to be honest with you. And of course, if I was his coach, I wouldn't be saying that, but honestly, I can't see him winning a frame at this stage, and he has to feed off a massive mistake from Selby. Speaking of which, I mean, the timing of that was awful for Mark Selby fans, but he's actually had the cue ball to go very close to the yellow, so don't think you'll be able to accelerate a lot of pace and inject a lot of pace on the white. But he's got the red over the right corner pocket, but ultimately, I mean, taking that red without the position on the black ain't going to be anything. Yeah, Jump is playing horribly. He's played that shot, but he spotted the cue ball to go right after the red. I can't really see him winning a frame out of this position, especially with the way he's playing. I'm as close as I'm ever going to be to saying he's not really bothered, because that's not the way you take that shot. I know it's difficult. I know it's, it makes it awkward when you have to breach over yellow, but you don't roll the cue ball after that red to go into the right corner pocket. You don't. And I'll tell you right now, if Selby was taking that shot, that wouldn't be the result. That wouldn't be the result. Now, Selby can go for a ball in hand shot himself. Try and take the red into the right corner. Let's see if he's going to be able to do that. As I say, he's going to be full of confidence. And he's going to be even more full of confidence now because it's a lovely little red taken really nicely into the right corner. And Selby is up and running once again. Closing in on that 10-5 win. Getting himself one more chance of actually making it the tournament that counts. And of course, what a drought it will be. Don't actually think that you would have had Selby in top 5 predictions, especially for the side of the draw that he had to go through. Stephen Maguire was actually going to be a difficult match there for him from my point of view, but he's managed to overcome it with a whitewash. Then he was up against Mark Williams, managed to defeat him in a decided brilliant battle to knock out the reigning champion. And then had a noisy scrap with Neil Robertson, but managed to shut him down for the majority of the match. And managed to get on top of him quite quickly out there, dictate the run of play, and ultimately defeat his opponent by a scoreline of 6 frames to 2. And ultimately, he's going to be very close to doing the similar sort of thing here to Judd. He's got a lovely little position set up ahead of himself, trying to go for the black into the left corner, gets himself in behind the red to try and take it into the left corner once again and play through the black for it to be set up into the opposite side of the table. Lovely little shot once again there from Selby, but I have to say, 6 reds he's got available to his name. At that stage, he'll be over 60 points advantage for Selby, and I mean, you have to say, Chom still played his part, and you have to give a shout out to him for making it into the final. He had a brilliant performance against Lipe fan Bayou, well, not so much Bayou, but it was an opening round, and he managed to overcome early struggles in that match, but had certainly a brilliant performance against Lipe fan and Xiaosington. Managed to win 6 frames on the bounce against the world champion from China. But ultimately, it is going to be a massive comeback for him anyway to try and produce against Mark Selby. But I don't actually think he is going to score a single point in this frame now. Selby is certainly going to be looking for this break to be the one that actually gets him over the line. And of course, barring pressure, it should be over and done with. Well, pressure could be a very interesting thing out there, but I think for one player that you have to say pressure wouldn't probably impact him is going to have to be Mark Selby because of the experience, because of the way he plays the game, the way he approaches the game, and pot success. You can see 97% in the evening session of a pot success for Mark Selby. That is absolutely outstanding. And it wasn't like we played one frame. We've played, what was it? We started off with 9 frames, so we played 5. This is the 6th frame that Mark Selby is playing on, and he's trying to win the 5th one of those 6. That has been one of the, probably the most dominant evening session that we have seen in the entire season, because I'm thinking of Ronnie trying to climb back from that 7-2 of a deficit against Neil Robertson, but ultimately he still lost out to Neil. And you can say with Mark Williams against Sean Murphy, but ultimately the ultimate damage was done in the early session. So I will say that probably is the best evening session performance of the season if Selby manages to get himself over the line. And Chom needs his brother back on his side soon. Well, he does. And Selby's looking good. A bit of old Selby brilliant. Yes, it does look like one of those Selby performances from 2016-2017 season when he was, if not dominating the play, one of the, certainly was would have been sort of counted as one of the most dangerous players on the tour. Now 50 points is the advantage, 46 on the break. It's about to make that one more 50 plus break of the match. I think you're going to be way over 6 on those that he managed to take, maybe more of that. And has the approach on the red to be taken into the left corner. So now 91 points still on the table. And as I say, 3 reds that he's got available ahead of himself certainly should get him over the line here. He's got one into the left middle that he can try and get in behind and playing to the right middle instead. He's got one that is going to be playable into the left, right middle and the right corner. And the one that he's trying to roll into the left corner right now. Getting a little touch on the pink, which and you're going to compromise him with any stretch of imagination. Now 65 points after this black with 83 on the table. So yeah, as I say, you delete all those reds, sort of 2 of those reds off the table, and he's going to be nicely away onto a frame win. But yeah, he's under on for this red, so maybe a little bit of pressure. Don't think he's going to be taking his eye off the pot surely at this stage. But also, you know, when you are edging towards that line, of course it is 65 points that he's got to his advantage, so maybe just one more shot there for him to prove his brilliance. And really nicely taken into the left middle. Gets himself on for a blue to be lined up for the penultimate shot, which is going to set him up for the match ball to be taken into left or right middle. Depends on the preference that he wants to go for. And of course still has one more option of trying to send the cue ball into those reds. And he has gone for that option. Played the shot beautifully once again. So could he just possibly finish on 3 centuries on the bounce? That will surely put it to probably the best performance of the season for me, as I say. Especially, you know, I could see Robertson defeating O'Sullivan for the simple reason of I knew that Ronnie was still back from his best form. But now, as he rolls the red in, it is going to be the match win for Mark Selby, and it is certainly GG's match. Selby dancing again. If he ends this one on 3 centuries on the bounce, I will say that is the greatest performance that I've seen this season. And of course, for what a player to come from, certainly not the one that I would have expected, but that's what makes the performance even better there for his point of view. Now rolls the black in, so no fist thrown in the air. He clearly was all about business, and he knew heading into this frame that it was going to be just a matter of time. With the way that Chomp has played previously, it is going to be a brilliant performance there from Selby's point of view, but he will need that last red to play along the cushion. Don't think he's going to need the yellow to be taken. Ultimately, he's about to go 91 points on the break, so ultimately, you know, the one more red plus black combination is going to get him onto 99 points, and he's going to have to send the cue ball onto the top part of the table. And has he played this shot to perfection? This line is really good for the cue ball. Not quite to perfection, but I still think this red is going to be possible onto the green pocket, which makes the chance for 3 centuries on the bounce very much possible out there for Selby. Or is he going to have to go for the rest shot? I mean, could that be the time there for him to break that perfect rest spot success? Or is it going to be just one more taken nicely? And he's actually going to be the one that takes him over the line for a century break, surely. And yes, well, it all comes down to this red. If he's going to be able to roll it with the rest along the cushion into the left corner. Well done, Mr. Selby, indeed. Now, is he going to be a perfect story written? Well, we're one shot closer to that brilliant red to be taken once again with the rest, and keeps that tournament rest spot success 35 out of 35 and 100% for Mark Selby. Now 2 shots away from making it, 3 centuries on the bounce, and the breaks off sort of 101, I think it was 138, and now approaching the break of 100 points exactly. He's going to be able to take the black and the red. Now takes the black in, has himself set up for the red to be taken into the left middle. So now for the perfect match ending, and certainly for all the dreams to become true for Mark Selby fans. Takes the red into the left middle, and it is going to be 3 centuries on the bounce. Absolutely magnificent, and certainly for me, the best performance that I've seen all season. He's going to go beyond Uwoyiza's performance against John Higgins for the simple reason of, I could see Uwoyiza defeating John Higgins. I couldn't see for the life of me Mark Selby doing what he's done to Judd Chomp and defeating him in such fashion, making 3 centuries on the bounce and leaving Chomp with absolutely no chance at all. I think he's made 1 point in those 3 frames or so, and the century to top it up. Certainly it is gonna be an absolute wonder of a break there for Selby's point of view as he rolls the green in nicely. Thank you for as I say, thank you for coverage, thank you for joining in, and it's one of those tournaments that you can actually watch on the TV, but thank you very much for sticking with the channel, and we'll be back for the Riyadh season, the 167 break. Is it a myth or is it a story waiting to happen? We're about to find out very soon, but ultimately it is going to be one of those chances for Selby to try and exploit. well, if he gets himself into the Riyadh season. But ultimately, he has done his work here at the Champion of Champions. And if he rolls the black in, it'll be a wonderful little 1-3-2 of a break to make it a wrap. Lovely, lovely stuff from Mark Selby that gets over the line against Judd. And there's certainly nothing that Chump could have done about it. Brilliant performance there from Chump. And now it is, from Selby's point of view. And it is Mark Selby that gets himself over the line. And what deserved performance and what deserved that win. That is lovely little stuff from Selby. 10 frames to 5 against the world number 1, against the favourite, certainly in terms of the odds. And what a turnaround. From 3-1 down, he manages to win sort of 9 frames of the next 12 being played. That is absolutely magnificent from his point of view. And, well, only losing 2 of those ever since trailing 3-1 onto their second session interval. Well, if you're going to go for a little bit of a preview, you're going to have to say, well done, Mark Selby. Brilliant performance from him, and pretty much flawless at this stage. It is going to be the cherry on the cake. And thanks for the stream again, team. Thanks very much to Lawrence Vlogs. Thank you for joining in. And very quickly, I thought it was going to be important for Chump to win the first frame when we were back on the second session, and he's managed to do it. But ever since, it's all gone downhill. Selby, after losing that 10 frame, has responded like a true champion, because even before that scrappy frame of, where Chump got in off there and actually lost himself whilst putting the cue ball into the green pocket and lost himself the frame, Selby still managed to have a wonderful little break. Not quite a century, I think, at that time, but still a break of 73 points to get himself a 6-5 of a lead. Chump pretty much had no chance of recovering that frame. And ultimately, from that point onwards, it was a very important frame for Selby to take on frame number 12. And then we had frame number 13, 14 and 15. 3 centuries on the bounce in the final. I think that's 4 centuries that Selby has managed to take, which is not quite a record broken there by Stephen Hendry of making 7 in the first of 10 tournament. But still, that is absolutely outrageous. Snooker being played from Selby. You have to say, shout out to Chump, because he's played well throughout the tournament. But ultimately, there was only one man that could have won this tournament, and it was Mark Selby. Let's see which one of them is going to be back to try and triumph in the UK Championship for the Triple Crown Challenge, because that pursuit for Judd is going to remain, and he's going to go on to Riyadh season, but ultimately probably going to go on to the UK Championship for him as well. For now, though, thank you very much for everyone that tuned in. Feel free to stay tuned in for that Riyadh season coming up. We're going to have Ronnie O'Sullivan play against either Sean Murphy or the wildcard from Saudi. Feel free to tune in for that one. And plenty of snooker action to go until the end of 2025. We're going to have Scottish Open, we're going to have Snooker Shootout, and we're going to have the big one, the Triple Crown, the UK Championship, being right on the horizon out there. Once again, thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll see you around for the Riyadh season in Saudi Arabia soon. Thanks for watching. Take care.